Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 25. After that, Jiruo taught Liang Shixian for a while. This class president was quite talented, but he was still far from the beginner level. However, Jiruo had already taught him everything he needed to. All Liang Shixian needed to do now was to practice. 2 hours later, Li Nanan moved her body. She had almost recovered. "Students, please take a break," she said to the students. The students, being exhausted, nodded. They had not had a good rest for the past 2 days. Now that Li Nanan had recovered some of her combat power, they could finally relax their tense heartstrings. Conditions were limited, so the few of them lay on the ground and prepared to sleep. The 4 teenagers were lying on both sides of Li Nanan. Zhang Quan and Lu Neng were lying very close to Li Nanan. Jiruo and Liang Shixian were lying on the other side. They were all exhausted. Liang Shixian fell asleep almost as soon as he laid down. Jiruo was exhausted, but he did not fall asleep immediately. He still had a chance to upgrade a certain achievement, and he planned to go to sleep after he added the points. "System," Jiruo called out in his heart. A light screen that only Jiruo could see suddenly appeared in front of him. There was a picture with extremely simple lines on the edge of the screen. From the style of the drawing, it looked like a simple doodle drawn on the blackboard by a primary school student with chalk. Unlocked achievement category: Martial Arts, Swordsmanship, Functional Skills. Unlocked achievements: 6. Current upgradable achievement points: 1. Martial Arts, Iron Sand Palm at 6 years old. Swordsmanship: if a young man were to hold the stick, all vegetables in 10 miles would be blown. Functional Skills: Foreign Affairs Spokesperson, Gold Class Tour Guide, Hide and Seek Expert. Achievement in Progress: a sincere compliment from an elder, 1/10. These were all the achievements that Jiruo had unlocked. Each achievement came with an ability other than the in-progress achievements. The opportunity to upgrade an achievement was precious, so Jiruo ruled out Iron Sand Palm first, then Foreign Affairs Spokesperson. The conditions for upgrading the abilities attached to these 2 achievements were relatively simple, so they were not considered. Out of the remaining achievements, Jiruo wanted to level up Gold Class Tour Guide and Hide and Seek Expert the most. As for Absolute Directional Sense, it was extremely powerful. Not only could it be used to identify directions, but it could also be used for treasure hunting. If the correction reached 100%, then Jiruo would be able to find anything he wanted, and that was the achievement he wanted to upgrade the most. As for Disguise, it could increase the effect of Disguise by 40%. Its effect was so strong that even the Spider Queen at the divine stage of the Pulsing Realm would not be able to notice him. Of course, this was also because the environmental conditions were too perfect at that time, and the Spider Queen had already lost her mind from anger. In addition, the 6-tentacled catfish had diverted her attention. Under the combination of many conditions, a special circumstance was formed. Jiruo wanted to level up both of his achievements, but he only had one chance to do so. So, after some thought, Jiruo decided not to upgrade either of them. When he was disguising himself at the edge of the swamp, he had gained a lot of experience, probably because he had fooled a monster that was almost a whole level higher than him. Disguise had been upgraded, from the originally 40% to 41%. This made Jiruo realize that the effect of skills or abilities displayed in percentages was a percentage increase for each level up. Jiruo wondered what was the percentage increase he could get from one upgrade. There was only one chance to level up. If Jiruo chose to level up one of the 2 achievements, the upgrade effect would only be a 1% increase. It was better not to level up. Since Jiruo wanted to level up both of the achievements, for the sake of fairness, he decided not to level up either. Therefore, after considering everything, Jiruo decided to use this precious chance to level up the achievement: if a young man were to hold the stick, all vegetables in 10 miles would be blown. The buff sword appreciation could increase Jiruo's understanding of swordsmanship to the full value of his current level. The current buff level was beginner. Therefore, theoretically, Jiruo could learn any beginner level of any sword art in a very short time as long as he wanted to. It was indeed powerful. As for this kind of ability that did not have a specific proficiency level and only displayed the level, it should also be raised to the corresponding level after the upgrade. At that time, Jiruo's sword appreciation buff could probably be raised to the advanced level. At the advanced level of the sword technique, one could use the sword energy. Although the distance he could fly in the air was not far, the lethality was far less than that of a real sword. However, sword energy was still sword energy. What did it matter if it was harmless? The main point was that he would look cool. Therefore, Jiruo decided to level up: if a young man were to hold the stick, all vegetables in 10 miles would be blown. Little host, are you sure you want to upgrade this achievement? You have to consider it carefully. Jiruo was at a loss for words. To be honest, the built-in voice package of the achievement system was a little problematic. However, it was really useful. I'm sure. Consumed upgradable achievement points *1 to upgrade. If a young man were to hold the stick, all vegetables in 10 miles would be blown. Congratulations, little host. You have successfully upgraded your achievement. Swordsmanship achievement has been upgraded to weapon-oriented achievement. Sword appreciation buff leveled up. Congratulations on obtaining a buff, knife sword ambidexterity. Beginner. Jiruo was confused. He had thought that the level of the buff would be upgraded, but he did not expect it to be an achievement upgrade. However, it did not seem too bad. Jiruo lay on his side on the ground, subconsciously reaching out to touch the handle of the traditional knife on his back. I'm in Myriad Beast Mountain. Even if I'm sleeping, I can't take off my weapon, he thought. In an instant, countless knife-manship swarmed his mind. The traditional knife was a kind of knife that could be held with 2 hands. The blade was slender and long, like a seedling, so it was called the traditional knife. Jiruo understood that this knife technique was very fast. He recalled some of the not very reasonable anime, movies, and TV works that he had seen in his previous life and tried to use the knife sword ambidexterity buff to understand them. In the end, Jiruo was able to grasp those knife techniques just by recalling them slightly. His talent and comprehension were indeed maxed. Huff. Jiruo lay on the ground and suddenly took a deep breath. His breathing had a special rhythm, and it was extremely long. As he breathed, there was a faint electric current flowing through his hair. Huff. Jiruo exhaled a long breath, but he did not use his knife technique. However, he had mastered a cool knife technique that only existed in his fantasy just by trying. It's really good. Jiruo thought inwardly. Overjoyed, he was about to go to sleep. Suddenly, he was startled by the abrupt noises. Boom. 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 The earth shook like never before. The earth was quaking, and huge rocks kept rolling down from the edge of the mountain. A huge crack appeared on the ground, and muffled thunder rumbled in the sky as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. What's the situation? Jiruo stood up in shock. Students, gather around! Li Nanan exclaimed. She was about to gather the students when Zhongquan and Lu Nang, who woke up in shock, rushed over and hugged Li Nanan, sobbing. Teacher, save me. Jiruo and Liang Shixian were separated from Li Nanan and the other two by the huge crack because of their positions. Red-hot lava gushed out from the crack. The mountains shifted, and the ley line twisted. A huge rock was rolling down Jiruo's head. Liang Shixian's first reaction after getting up was not to run to Li Nanan, but to Jiruo. He shouted, "Be careful, Jiruo." Student Jiruo. Li Nanan exclaimed. She used her body technique and headed toward Jiruo, but her movements were restricted by the 2 giant babies on her. Before Li Nanan could cross the crack, the surrounding scenery moved rapidly like a slideshow. At this moment, Myriad Beast Mountain seemed to have a life of its own as it began to move violently. The entire region was once again thrown into chaos, and the speed and magnitude of the movement were unimaginable. By the time the group came back to their senses, they were forcibly separated and did not know where they were. Chapter 26. When Jiruo and the others were being chased by the 9-eyed magic spiders, Jiruo was constantly using absolute directional sense to search for a safe direction. At that time, the director of the education division was also searching in this direction. Jiruo thought that after many adjustments to his absolute directional sense, it could define the perfect path as long as he took the average value. But in fact, absolute directional sense only had a 5% correction rate. If all the directions were divided into 360 degrees, then the effect of one correction would only be 18 degrees. Even if he did multiple corrections and took the average value, he could only narrow the error to 180 degrees at most. Strictly speaking, Jiruo and the others were running away from the real path of survival. However, Jiruo knew nothing about this. Since he had met a martial artist, he felt that he had chosen the right direction. By the time the director of the education division found the 9-eyed magic spider's nest, a long time had already passed. He searched around the 9-eyed magic spider's lair and quickly made a discovery. There were more than 10 corpses of 9-eyed magic spiders near the entrance of the cave. They were all dismembered to death, and their deaths were extremely miserable. However, it was very obvious that these 9-eyed magic spiders were all killed by humans. With just a glance, this director of the education division recognized that these 9-eyed magic spiders had all died under some kind of knife technique. A spider queen, and 6 tentacled catfish. After leaving the nest, the director of the education division frowned as he surveyed the 2 long-dead demonic creatures in front of him. The 6 tentacled catfish was poisoned to death, while the spider queen was burned to death. In addition, the director also found 5 shallow human-shaped pits on the edge of the swamp not far away. If he had come a little later, these shallow pits would have been gone. He closed his eyes and perceived his surroundings carefully. After a while, the director frowned. The clues are broken again. He frowned and pondered for a moment. All powerful martial artists had intuition, but it was not for finding people. The director's fingertips pinched the torn school uniform fabric he had found on the road earlier. He perceived it carefully, and his intuition, which was unique to martial artists, was activated to the extreme. Soon after, the director actually had a vague feeling in his heart. The director began making his way. However, if his target was Jiruo and the others, then he was going in the wrong direction. Those detestable toads. They were the ones who killed the earth-rumbling worm, so why are they chasing me? A dirty white cat was carefully walking through the forest, gritting its teeth. They can't even finish eating such an earth-rumbling worm, so why can't I have a bite or two? I don't eat much. D***mn it. It carefully distinguished the scent in the air, and as it walked, a khaki-colored bead flashed above its head. With each step, it covered a distance of 10 meters or even more. Moreover, the direction was different each time. However, the strange thing was that no matter which direction it went, the general direction was always forward. It was as if the path ahead was always being corrected under its feet. The aura of a demonic creature's the smell seems to be a troll. That's just nice. The white cat's eyes turned cold. After eating these trolls, I should be able to deal with them for a while longer. A moment later, it arrived at the place where the trolls lived. Trolls were human-like monsters. They were ugly, powerful, and had low intelligence. The intelligence of monsters was generally low. Incidentally, they also lived in groups. At this moment, the troll seemed to be in a revelry. The white cat was just about to make a move when it suddenly smelled a strange smell of blood in the air. It was not that there was anything strange about the smell of blood, but the white cat felt it was a little unfamiliar. It looked carefully and finally found a dying food source surrounded by the reveling trolls. Human, the white cat was stunned. It frowned and began to ponder. Although it had not come into contact with humans, it seemed to be much safer to deal with humans compared to the danger it was currently facing. Although the white cat had never interacted with humans before, it was said that humans had the ability to travel through space and leave the secret realm. Although the white cat already had the moon essence mirror, it was severely injured and in a bad state. It did not have enough power to activate the moon essence mirror. Although cooperating with the humans was no different from asking a tiger for its skin, the white cat had no choice now. It could not delay for much longer. Moreover, that human was already on the verge of death. It was said that humans knew how to repay kindness. It should be worth it to save one's life in exchange for a way for me to live, isn't it? The white cat mused. It wanted to take a gamble. The white cat kept thinking and weighing the pros and cons. Finally, it gritted his teeth and activated its innate ability, pulling all the ecstatic trolls into an illusion. The hundreds of giant demons suddenly stopped moving. Huff. Huff. The white cat panted heavily. The troll's meat was sour and bitter, and it did not want to eat it unless it was necessary. After panting for a while, the white cat slowly walked into the troll tribe. The human was hung on a long pole in the center of the tribe by the trolls. One of his legs and one of his arms were missing, and there was a large hole in his chest. His heart could be seen beating slowly in it, and a part of his lungs was missing. The white cat frowned. This human was almost beyond saving. If it were not for the strong physique of the human martial artist, he would have died from such a serious injury. Human. The white cat called out softly. In order to achieve its own goal, it did not even hesitate to use the little demonic energy it had left to barely keep the male human alive. The martial artist who was on the verge of death barely opened his eyes. You speak human language. Demon dash. I want to make a deal with you, the white cat said slowly. We are martial artists. There's nothing much to say to you demons, the martial artist responded in an unusually weak voice. He was still able to speak now because of the white cat's demonic power. The white cat frowned but did not give up. You might as well listen to my conditions first. Human, you're in a very bad state right now, and you're hanging on by my demonic power. I can save you and help you to leave this place. However, I hope you can take me with you when you leave Myriad Beast Mountain in exchange. The invigilator was stunned for a moment. He was so seriously injured that he was no longer able to think normally. Where are you going? Anywhere as long as it's not the Myriad Beast Mountain. I know you humans have a way to leave the secret realm. The white cat said, I just want to leave this place. I won't make a deal with a demon. You can give up. The white cat frowned again. It slowly walked in front of the martial artist and looked up. I'm using my demonic power to keep you alive. If we can go back in time, the humans should have the means to cure your injuries. Don't you want to live? I would rather die than strike a deal with a demon. I just want to leave Myriad Beast Mountain and not go to human territory, the white cat exclaimed. Demon's words can't be trusted. You. The white cat was a little angry. It had never lied. Are you just going to die here like this? And to be devoured by these ugly trolls? The martial arts examination invigilator raised his head slightly. With his already somewhat blurry vision, he saw that the hundreds of giant demons were each maintaining a strange posture and standing in place. He was slightly shocked. This was a powerful demon in front of him. Looking at you, you should be considered young among humans. Don't you think it's a pity to die like this? You clearly still have a bigger future ahead of you. As long as you promise to take me out of Myriad Beast Mountain, I can save you. You have to think carefully. Are there any important things you haven't done? You can't do anything once you're dead, the white cat said. The white cat did not want to die, so it wanted to make a deal with this human. The martial artist's mind was in a daze for a moment. His condition was at its worst, and it was already very difficult for him to remain awake. Something important, the martial artist murmured softly. He finally remembered that he still had a very important thing to do. I can promise you. The white cat was pleasantly surprised. Really? I'll save you now? I can even help you take revenge. As it spoke, it stomped her foot slightly, and the khaki-colored pearl above its head immediately glowed. In an instant, the earth wave surged and buried all the giant demons in an instant. No. There's no need to save me. The martial artist said with difficulty, help me spread the news that an accident happened during the martial arts examination. Geological changes happened at the foot of Myriad Beast Mountain in the territory controlled by humans and regional chaos. Don't leave. You can use my secret realm's watch to teleport. Please be sure to send this message out. The martial artist's consciousness was getting blurred, and he could not hold on any longer even with the white cat's demonic power. As for the wristwatch, it did not actually have the function of active teleportation. However, the martial artist could not remember clearly. The white cat was stunned. At the foot of the mountain? I've never controlled the ley lines at the foot of the mountain. How can it be, it thought. The white cat carefully recalled that the worm pearl that could control the movement of Myriad Beast Mountain's ley lines was in its possession. Logically speaking, it should be the only one who could control Myriad Beast Mountain's ley lines. However, it was true that it had never controlled the ley line at the foot of the mountain. Although there were many demonic beasts and demons at the foot of the mountain, their levels were too low and their bloodlines were mixed, which was not beneficial to the white cat. Moreover, if the white cat went to the foot of the mountain with its demonic power, the strong demonic aura would be as conspicuous as a bright light in the mist. The white cat was not so foolish to waste its limited demonic power to control the earth vein at the foot of the mountain. Up until now, it had been dealing with the powerful demons who were chasing it. Why did the foot of the mountain change, it wondered. The white cat could not figure it out, and a human-like confused expression appeared on his face. It was also the first time it had used the worm ball, so it was not sure if the change at the foot of the mountain had anything to do with it. This martial artist did not seem to hear what the white cat said. Time is running out. Who knows how many children will die if we're a second slower? My life is not important. The white cat looked at the human martial artist in a daze and with an unusually complex expression. I can help you. Thank you. I'll teach you how to use the watch. The white cat leaned over and listened to the martial artist, who explained the usage of the watch with difficulty. However, the martial artist's explanation was actually incorrect because he was on his deathbed. Then, the martial artist died. I promise you. I will definitely spread this message out, the white cat uttered softly. It used the little demonic energy it had left to lift up the martial artist's body and lay it flat on the ground. There are actually creatures that are not afraid of death. Humans are really strange, it muttered to itself, with a slight feeling of admiration in its heart. It crouched in front of the martial artist and was about to activate the watch. However, at this moment, an angry roar exploded behind the white cat. Damn demon! What did you do to that child? Chapter 27. The person was none other than the director of the education division who had searched the area. He sensed the presence of humans and rushed over. As soon as he arrived, he saw the white cat sitting before a dead martial artist. The body of the martial artist was in tatters. With the powerful eyesight of the director of the education division, he could see the irregular gnawing marks on the martial artist's body from far away. The white cat was curiously fiddling with the watch the martial artist had given it before he died. It had never seen such a technological creation before. The white cat's back was facing the director. When the director saw the white cat's back swaying, he thought the white cat was eating people and immediately became furious. You dare to eat people? Die! The director attacked in anger, and he slapped a heavenly steel palm across the air. I'm not. The white cat was shocked and dodged quickly. However, a powerful suction force suddenly erupted from the center of the palm filled with vitality. The white cat was unable to dodge in time and was smacked. Fortunately, the demons had thick skin, and this white cat was not an ordinary demon, so it was not killed. However, it flew backward and smashed into the ground in the distance, spitting out blood. I made a deal with him. I didn't kill him, the white cat roared in anger. The director sneered, you're quite resistant to a beating. Do you think I'll believe your nonsense? You deserve death. He had already sensed that this cat demon was not simple, so he had used 120% of his strength in an attempt to kill it in one blow. I never lie. The white cat was angry, but its anger was not due to the director's sudden attack. However, this white cat was already injured and was even more wounded from the chief's attack. How can you slander a cat? The white cat was so angry that it wanted to say something more, but when it saw the director coming for it again, and this time, the power was even more terrifying than the previous one. The white cat did not dare to say anything more. The cocky bead on top of its head glowed brightly, and its size shrank by nearly a third. Hence, the earth shook, and the mountains shifted positions. Demon, don't you dare leave. The director's body turned into a flash and instantly arrived, slapping his unparalleled palm down ruthlessly. The white cat could not dodge in time and was hit on the head. With a miserable cry, it was moved away by the earth vein that had significantly changed. So the strange change in the secret realm of Myriad Beast Mountain was your doing. The director wanted to continue chasing, but he had already lost track of the white cat. He frowned. The ley line was changing so violently that even he did not know where he was now. The corpse of the young martial artist had also disappeared with the surging earth vein. D***MN cat demon. The director cursed in a low voice. The white cat's head was hit directly. At the critical moment, he used the worm pearl to modify the earth vein at all costs, allowing himself to escape by force. But it wasn't any better. It was already heavily injured, and after encountering the director, its injuries worsened. Then, it forcefully activated the worm pearl at all costs, and its head aperture was damaged at this moment. The white cat was lying in a forest somewhere, bleeding from all 7 apertures and dying. Despicable humans. If there's a chance, I'll travel to the human world and eat all of your fish. It said harsh words that no one could hear, and its consciousness became more blurry. Phew, I have no choice, sister, you must survive. Sister, I'm going to sleep first. At this point, the white cat's consciousness fell into endless darkness. As the white cat's consciousness fell silent, the layer of snow-white fur on the surface of its body, for some unknown reason, rapidly turned black. The white cat had turned into a black cat. The black cat opened its eyes. Its gaze was quick-witted and slightly dazed. Meow. Jiruo, what is this place? Liang Shixian asked in a low voice. Is this your first time taking the martial arts examination? Jiruo raised his eyebrows. Yes, Liang Shixian replied. Jiruo rolled his eyes, what a coincidence. Me too. Earlier, when the earth's veins had suddenly churned, and the mountains and rivers had shifted, it had been difficult for them to clearly see the changes in their surroundings at their current cultivation level. The violent earthquake almost made the two of them vomit. Fortunately, the two of them were fine, just lost. They were currently on a hill, and there was nothing familiar about their surroundings. Jiruo kept using absolute directional sense to find a safe direction. However, he did not know if it was because Jiruo was too weak, but even absolute directional sense could not give him safety. All directions were extremely dangerous. Roar. At this moment, a loud roar came from the distance. The two looked in the direction of the sound and saw a giant white ape dozens of meters tall. Its head pierced through the tree's canopy and roared at the sky. Caw. 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 A huge black bird flew over from another direction. Its wingspan was unknown how many meters, like a huge dark cloud. A walrus that streaked across the sky with 1 foot, and a giant fish that swam in the sky. Liang Shixian trembled and said in a trembling voice, Jiruo, what should we do now? Liang Shixian was at a loss. He was so flustered that he could see high-leveled legendary demon beasts anywhere. He would be lying if he said he was not flustered. Having the courage to face death did not mean that he was not afraid of death. To be honest, Jiruo was also panicking. However, he still calmly analyzed. Our current situation should be that the newbies have mistakenly entered a high-level map. We can't beat them, and we can't run away either. Now, there's only one way. I think the geomancy here is good. Shall we dig the grave first? Jiruo pointed at the ground. Liang Shixian was rendered speechless and thought, what f***ing good geomancy. Liang Shixian still wanted to say something, but Jiruo had already bent down and started digging. Jiruo, can you be more serious? Did you forget how we dodged the Spider Queen? There are still 4 days until the end of the martial arts examination. We will be teleported out by then. We're level 6 martial apprentices, we won't die even if we lie down for a few days without food and water. Hide and survive for 4 days. This is the only way I can think of. This. Don't talk nonsense, quickly dig. Jiruo said seriously. This map was too high level, even the knife sword ambidexterity couldn't handle it. There was fatal danger in all directions, and Jiruo didn't dare to run around. He could only dig a hole and bury himself first, farm disguise, and wait for the martial arts exam to end. Liang Shixian opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but the roar of a powerful demon beast came from afar. Liang Shixian shivered in fear and didn't dare to say anything. He bent down and started digging with Jiruo. Let's dig the grave and lie in it. Jiruo said, if anything happens, we won't die without a burial place, right? In Yonkers, grade 12, class 4, it was already the third day of the martial arts examination. The atmosphere in the class was still heavy. The two students still had not returned. The hope of survival was already very slim. Students. Jiruo and Liang Shixian are not back yet. I'm sure everyone knows what this means. Li Bingdao, the form teacher, said, although I don't want to accept this result, the education department has sent word that they've already found some of the martial artists. They suffered heavy casualties for exam patrollers. In other words, the two level 6 martial apprentices were probably dead. In 4 days, our school will be holding a memorial service at the flag-raising square. I hope that all students can come. Li Bingdao looked depressed. The dead are already gone. Students, don't be too sad. You still have a long way to go. The higher UPS have already decided to abolish the martial arts examination system in the Mystic Realm, and the new one is still being discussed. All students will have to take part in the martial arts examination again, and this time, it will be very safe. Students, please keep your emotions in check and prepare for the new martial arts examination. Teacher, I want to drop out of school. I don't want to take the exam. A girl said in a low voice, with a faint sobbing tone, I don't want to take the martial arts examination anymore. Li Bingdao was stunned for a moment and subconsciously tried to persuade him, Zhang Miao, I hope you can hold on a little longer. You're quite talented. When you reach Pulsing Realm, you'll definitely become a powerful martial artist. But teacher, didn't the exam invigilator also die? Zhang Miao suddenly burst into tears, teacher, I'm scared. I don't want to die. I want to go home. I don't want to take the martial arts exam anymore. What? Zhang Dash. Li Bingdao still wanted to say something. Suddenly, Zhang Miao's cry was like a signal, and more than half of the students in the class started crying. Teacher, I'm afraid of death. I won't be a martial artist anymore. I'm not taking the exam either. They were just a group of children. They had not completely left the school, but they had already experienced life and death. It was only human nature to be afraid of death. Although the people of Bactria valued martial arts, and every student received martial arts education from a young age, they were still very young. However, these children had only killed chickens, ducks, and other poultry. Some students had personally witnessed their peers being torn apart and eaten by demonic beasts and monsters during the martial arts examination. That terrifying scene had left an indelible psychological shadow in their hearts. They were already afraid, and their martial arts were shrouded in a layer of haze. They had already lost the courage to press forward. Dear students, please consider it again. After all, it's an important life event. Li Bingdao suddenly sighed and said, I understand. I'll report this to the school. Students who don't want to take the martial arts exam or study martial arts, you can give me a list. Martial arts is about moving forward with indomitable will. It's about the courage to do it even though you know it's impossible. I won't force you. If you want to give up, then give up. The students started to sign their names. There were a total of 46 students in grade 12 class 4. 2 had not returned and 36 had abandoned the exam. In the end, only 8 students were still hesitating. Li Bingdao sighed again and said, in 4 days, there will be a memorial service for the whole school. All students, please come. Huff student Jiruo and Liang Shixian. He slowly walked out of the classroom, as if he had suddenly aged a few decades. Even as a martial artist, he could no longer hold his back straight. Chapter 28. The 4th day of the combat examination. Wow! A white spirit fruit. Jiruo picked up a white fruit that was giving off an alluring fragrance. He looked very happy. The white spirit fruit was a spirit fruit of a higher grade than the blood red rice. Eating it could clear one's mind and vision, and there were no restrictions on eating it, which was greatly beneficial to martial arts cultivation. Not only that, but it could also strengthen one's vitality, and to a certain extent, it could even cleanse one's body and bones. Although martial apprentices were weak, any spiritual medicine or fruit they ate would have special effects. According to Jiruo's understanding, this was similar to playing online games like Blue Moon. If one's level was too far away from the highest level in the world, they would get a certain amount of experience when fighting monsters. Because it wasn't a particularly high-grade spirit fruit, the white spirit fruit had the effects of clearing the heart, improving eyesight, and cleansing the body, but the effects were very weak. But even so, it was enough to make Jiruo happy. After all, this fruit was picked up for free. Jiruo, lower your voice. Liang Shixian lowered his voice and said anxiously. We can't be exposed now. Exposed what? We are tree demons now, what are you afraid of? Jiruo asked in surprise. Do you really think you're a tree demon? Liang Shixian recalled yesterday's experience and was still a little confused. Yesterday, Jiruo had dug 2 holes for him to lie in and fill them with soil. He had planned to pass the last 4 days of the martial arts exam. In the end, they did not expect that they were indeed not discovered by the demonic beasts, but the trees in the forest were all tree demons. During the day, they would bask in the sun and photosynthesize. When night fell, they would rise from the ground and migrate. Liang Shixian was fine, but Jiruo was suddenly pulled out of the ground by a tree demon. He did not know if it was because of bad luck or something. At that time, not to mention Liang Shixian, even the tree demon seemed to be stunned. Then, the tree monsters started to attack Jiruo. The dense branches covered the sky and the earth as they stabbed at Jiruo. Liang Shixian remembered clearly that Jiruo had calmly placed the traditional knife at his waist and lowered his body. Then, with a clang, the gleam of the knife was unusually bright in the dark night, as if it was accompanied by white thunderbolts. Jiruo's speed was so fast that Liang Shixian couldn't even see clearly that they were at the same level. Liang Shixian could only see a dazzling flash of lightning, and the tree demon's branches were all cut off. At the same time, Jiruo rushed to the tree demon and hugged the tree, his palms red as he rubbed against it at high speed. It had been forcefully rubbed by the tree demon. Normally, ordinary tree demons only had a long life, but their individual strength was not very strong. Moreover, they were extremely afraid of fire. The other treemen also wanted to attack Jiruo, but they ran away when they saw the fire. Jiruo was also shocked. It was the first time he had seen a tree separate the area. Then, Jiruo ran away with Liang Shixian while the tree demon was burning and screaming. And then, the most outrageous thing happened. Liang Shixian did not expect that after Jiruo brought him into the normal forest, he would cut off a large piece of leaf, crush it, take its juice, and smear it on his body. Then, he would break off a few branches with green leaves and stick them into his clothes. After that, despite Liang Shixian's strong dissuasion, Jiruo said that he would bring Liang Shixian back for a good meal. After that, they were surrounded and released by the treemen. Jiruo suddenly said that he wanted to join the family of treemen, and then he really did. He even helped the treemen, whose leaves were almost all burned out, put out the fire. Although half of its body was burnt, the shaking branches of the treemen showed that it was very grateful to Jiruo. These tree demons actually did not suspect their identities, it was simply ridiculous. It's better to be careful. After all, we're not real tree demons. Can you not pluck the spirit fruits from those tree demons all the time? Liang Shixian asked, this is too arrogant. Ordinary tree demons had no eyes, nose, or mouth. They were a kind of relatively docile demon, not very dangerous. But even if it was not high, it was still dangerous. Liang Shixian felt that the reason these tree demons accepted them was because they had no facial features, so they could not see or hear what they were saying. However, what tree would climb up another tree to pick its fruit? Jiruo thought for a while and picked another fruit. Here, class president. This is for you. Thank you. Jiruo took a bite of the white spirit fruit and said, don't worry, we won't be exposed. Tree demons sleep during the day and only wake up at night to move. Besides, they can't see or hear us, so we won't be exposed. Don't worry. Seeing Jiruo like this, Liang Shixian said helplessly, Jiruo, when will you learn to be more careful? Snacks? What kind of snacks? Liang Shixian was at a loss for words. Jiruo wasn't an ignorant person. In fact, Liang Shixian wasn't involved, so he didn't know what happened. At that time, Jiruo was not forced out by the tree demon, but by himself. The tree demon was indeed stunned. In fact, Jiruo didn't want to come out, but the problem was that the tree demon had stepped on Jiruo. The treemen ran over Jiruo's body with their strong roots. Through the air vent in his head, Jiruo saw a large group of treemen moving away. The teachers in school had taught him that tree demons were generally gentler in nature. Moreover, tree demons that lived in groups must have chosen to live in groups because they couldn't survive on their own. Therefore, Jiruo made a move. The tree monster was too heavy and moved too slowly. The tree monster seemed to feel that something was wrong with its feet, so it rubbed against Jiruo's body and refused to leave. The reason he attacked was because Jiruo couldn't take it if he kept being stepped on. As for why Jiruo came back later, it was because he remembered an important point. That was, tree demons that lived in groups like this would generally form a very wonderful symbiotic relationship with other creatures in the forest. Because the tree demons needed to sleep during the day, or they cooperated with light to accumulate the ability to move at night, They could not move during the day until they reached a certain level. Therefore, they would bear some relatively ordinary spirit fruits on their bodies. They were non-toxic and harmless, attracting other creatures in the forest to eat them. Because the spiritual fruits were relatively ordinary, there wouldn't be too powerful demons or demons eating them, so the crime of possession of a jade was ruled out first. As for the creatures that would come to eat the spirit fruit, while they were not strong, the herbivorous demons or monsters were more docile in nature. In theory, they would not hit the chef after eating their fill. In this way, although the tree demons could not move during the day, they were still safe. Not only that, some weak creatures would occasionally excrete on the spot after they had eaten their fill and felt the urge. When the creatures were satisfied, they would also provide a certain amount of fertilizer for the tree monsters. This was the way for ordinary social tree monsters to survive. It was a mutually beneficial and cooperative relationship. Jiruo had thought of this, which was why he had disguised himself and brought Liang Shixian back after escaping. However, in the beginning, he had only wanted to pick up some spiritual fruits. After eating his fill, he would find a good place to bury them and wait for the martial examination to end. However, the world was always changing. The treemen who were still migrating at that time noticed Jiruo and his friend who had returned, and they immediately surrounded them. However, at that time, Jiruo and Liang Shixian had the smell of soil and plant juice on them, and they had the disguise skill. The tree demon's perception wasn't very strong, but they could still detect some movements. Jiruo was prepared for a fight. Unexpectedly, one of the thicker trees touched the branch on Jiruo's clothes with its own branch. The leaves shook slightly and rustled, as if telling Jiruo not to fall behind. After that, the tree demons continued to migrate. Jiruo's fruit had not yet slipped away, so he suddenly did not plan to leave. Because when the treeman approved of Jiruo, he suddenly activated an achievement aperture. Little host, congratulations for unlocking functional skills, let's play house together. Acquired skill, influenced by the situation. Sense of being brought in, during character showcase, if the identity you are acting as is within a reasonable range, you can gain a 40% identity bonus, causing the people around the target to be brought in to a certain extent. Remark, I'm the father today, and the grandfather tomorrow. The whole family will be solely comprised of me. Hee. Jiruo, you're almost done, right? Let's take advantage of the fact that these tree demons haven't woken up yet and quickly run, Liang Shixian said in a low voice. As the class president, Liang Shixian had always been a good student. In terms of theoretical knowledge, Liang Shixian was not much worse than Jiruo. If Jiruo could think of the important points, Liang Shixian would have thought of them as well. Of course, he knew that under normal circumstances, this kind of symbiotic tree demon wouldn't take the initiative to attack the surrounding creatures. However, even if he knew, it did not affect Liang Shixian's fear. Leave. Jiruo said seriously. We have big things to do now. What's the big deal? Liang Shixian was stunned. Of course, we're playing a game of house. Chapter 29. Jiruo, I still think. Liang Shixian couldn't help but ask as he watched Jiruo climb a tree to pick a white spirit fruit and a scarlet heart pepper. The scarlet heart pepper was a type of chili and was considered a spiritual item. Its main function, as its name suggested, was to make people angry. To be more specific, the special spiciness could affect the heart and speed up blood circulation. In other words, it could slightly increase the speed of martial arts cultivation. Not all of the spirit fruits on these tree demons were the same, and they understood the principle that you should not put all your eggs in one basket. Before Liang Shixian could finish, Jiruo glanced at him and asked, what do you think? Should we run? That's right, after all, we're not real tree demons. If we're discovered, there are so many tree demons here. Jiruo spread out his hands and said, Class President, look at this. You saw what happened yesterday. This place is definitely out of the boundary of the martial exam. There are high-level demonic beasts everywhere. Even if we go to other places, it won't be safe. It might be dangerous to stay with this group of tree demons, but they haven't discovered us yet, have they? Theoretically, we should be safe before they find us, said Jiruo. It was the demon race's instinct to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. The direction they were heading in was definitely a safe direction for them. Before they were exposed, they were definitely safe. Tree demons aren't strong individually. Even if we're discovered, we still have the ability to escape. There are still so many fruits to eat, so why do we have to run? The other places are not safe either, he continued. But Liang Shixian still wanted to say something, but after frowning for a while, he realized that Jiruo's words made sense. All right then, however, we still have to be careful. This time, don't even think about giving up your life to cover my retreat. As you can see, the level of the demon beasts in this area is very high. Even if you do that, I won't be able to escape when the danger comes, Jiruo said. After some thought, Liang Shixian also climbed the tree with Jiruo to pick spiritual fruits. The two of them ate a lot of scarlet heart peppers. The spiciness in their mouths made their cheeks slightly red, and the blood in their bodies flowed faster and faster. They stood in the middle of the tree demons and began to slowly practice the various basic martial arts taught by the school. During this process, the spirit fruits they had eaten earlier were being refined rapidly, transforming into their strength. The increase was slow, but it was obvious. The improvement was visible to the naked eye. After a few days of running, with the supply of blood rice and various spiritual fruits, the two of them naturally completed a small breakthrough and became level 7 martial apprentices. Ha! So spicy. Jiruo stuck out his tongue. Apart from the fact that the scarlet heart pepper could speed up one's cultivation, it also had a special spicy taste. After Jiruo had broken through to the level 7 martial apprentice, he had almost used up all the energy of the spiritual fruits in his body. While his physique had improved, the spicy taste in his mouth had become more obvious. Class president, let's go and drink some water. We'll come back to practice later, Jiruo said. Liang Shixian was also uncomfortable with the spiciness, but for some reason, he felt that Jiruo's words sounded like class is over, let's go to the snack bar. He realized that Jiruo wasn't worried at all. Tree demons were plant-type monsters and had a high demand for water. Therefore, every time they camped during the day, there must be a water source around their camp. The branches on Jiruo's body were shaking, and his clothes were so dirty that they were unrecognizable. Jiruo's dirty clothes, the tree branches with leaves, and the green plant juice on his face and hands made him look like a tree demon. The two of them came to a small stream. The water was clear, and there were a few small fish the length of 2 fingers swimming in it. There were not only monsters and magical beasts in the misty secret realm, but also ordinary animals. Of course, the normal animals in the secret plane were definitely stronger than the normal animals outside, but not by much. The fact that there were fish swimming in the water meant that the water was not poisonous. Let's catch a few fish later, cut 2 tree demons, roast, and eat them, Jiruo said while drinking water. Of course, Jiruo was just joking. If he really wanted to roast fish, he could do it with his iron sand palm. After all, it wasn't safe for the smoke from the kitchen to rise. If your brother tree demon knew what you were thinking, he would definitely kick you out immediately. However, Liang Shixian knew that he couldn't convince Jiruo. He sighed and decided to take things as they came. After some thought, Liang Shixian asked curiously, Jiruo, the blade technique you used last night. From yesterday until now, he had been worried that he and Jiruo would be exposed. Now that he had learned from Jiruo, he couldn't help but recall Jiruo's attack. The blade light was dazzling and extremely fast. It could be said to be stunning. I created it myself, Jiruo said indifferently. Liang Shixian smacked his lips. Although he had already guessed it, when he really got the answer, he still felt that Jiruo's talent was a little outrageous. As expected of the knife sword ambidexterity. His knife and sword techniques were all self-created, and they were all so powerful. Do you have any plans to sell that blade technique? It's like the arrow breaking stance, Liang Shixian asked hesitantly. The saber technique looked lethal and extremely cool. Liang Shixian wanted to learn it. Jiruo smiled. Class president, if you want to learn, just tell me. I can teach you. Liang Shixian blushed and said, Jiruo, I've learned your broken arrow form for nothing. Although I haven't reached the beginner level, I already know how to practice it. If you're going to sell that knife technique, I'll definitely buy it. But if you're going to teach me for free, then forget it, it's embarrassing. He knew that Jiruo's family was not well off. Liang Shixian had planned to pay for Jiruo's knife and sword techniques, but he was worried that he would hurt Jiruo if he paid. Jiruo might feel that he was giving him a favor. After all, Liang Shixian could tell that Jiruo was serious about teaching him. Aya, this is nothing. It's just a saber technique. You've taken care of me all these years, so it shouldn't be a problem for me to repay you, right? Class president, let me tell you. Jiruo said nonchalantly, this saber technique is called Thunderbolt Flash. It requires a special breathing technique to stimulate the potential of the body in a very short time in exchange for extremely fast speed. Normally, once one reached the level of the beginner, one's speed would instantly increase to 6 times that of the normal state when using the saber technique. I'll show you. As Jiruo spoke, he suddenly took a deep breath. Si. 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 A white stream of air that was visible to the naked eye poured into Jiruo's mouth. In a daze, Liang Shixian felt like he could see tiny electric currents flowing through Jiruo's body. White lightning lingered around his fingertips, and he suddenly struck out to strike. Whoosh! Liang Shixian was shocked. Jiruo had only reached out his hand, and there was a faint sound of breaking through the air. He was so fast that there were even after images. When Jiruo pulled back his hands, he had caught 2 fish from the stream. Gulp! Liang Shixian subconsciously swallowed his saliva. He couldn't have dodged that attack just now. Jiruo continued, I found the breathing technique by accident. I named it concentrated breathing. It means that you have to put your heart and soul into breathing so that your body can absorb as much oxygen as possible and fill your lungs. What's that black thing? Liang Shixian was stunned for a moment, then he looked in the direction of Jiruo's gaze warily. He saw a black, unknown object lying by the stream downstream, as if it wanted to catch a fish. However, every time it tried, it would miss. The intelligent fish would even jump out of the water and use its tail to hit the black, unknown object. The black, unknown object was obviously very angry, and Liang Shixian had a strange expression on his face. It looks like a cat. Chapter 30. After the black cat was whipped by the fish's tail, it was furious. Its pair of cat claws were wrapped in endless anger, and it waved them quickly in an instant. It had stirred up the water by the stream. A little kitty. Jiruo's eyes brightened. He walked over with the two fish in his hand. I love little kittens the most. Let me play with them. Jiruo, don't go, what if it's a demon? Liang Shixian opened his mouth, but before he could finish, Jiruo had already started to greet him. Hello, little cat. I'm Jiruo. Do you want to come over and play with me? Jiruo was not arrogant, but the black cat was bullied by the fish, so it did not look like a powerful creature. Since the cat was not strong and still dared to catch fish by the stream, it was probably very hungry. Jiruo made the decision in less than a second and then stepped forward. His thoughts were very simple. He wanted to grab the cat and give it a good beating. The black cat finally noticed Jiruo and Liang Shixian, so it did not want to mess things up anymore. It arched its body and looked at the two of them vigilantly, then it said in a baby voice, meow. The cat looked to be only 1 or 2 months old. It was a full-on kitten, and it was extremely cute when it pretended to be fierce. Jiruo chuckled and took a few more steps forward. The black cat turned around and ran. Its movements weren't that swift, and it even staggered a little. It climbed up a tree with difficulty and looked down at Jiruo and the stream that it had muddled up. Its eyes were filled with reluctance. It was afraid of Jiruo and Liang Shixian, but it also couldn't bear to leave. It really wanted to eat fish. Liang Shixian came to Jiruo's side and said in a low voice, Stop it, Jiruo. We are still in the exam. No, we are no longer in the designated area of the martial exam. Myriad Beast Mountain is too dangerous. If you want to play with a cat, I will give you one when we get back. My cat is about to give birth. Class President, have you heard of the legend of the fisherman? What legend? Liang Shixian was stunned. Certainly, we have to stop when we meet a river. Jiruo laughed. What does this have to do with us? Liang Shixian asked, confused. Because cat lovers are similar. But that black cat seems to be afraid of us. Don't worry, I have a way to make it calm down. As Jiruo spoke, he put one fish into his pocket and put the other fish between his palms. His palms suddenly turned scarlet red, and the high temperature even slightly distorted the air. Sizzle. Liang Shixian felt numb as he sniffed the faint and strange fish fragrance that had a slightly fishy smell. He thought, did Jiruo specially learn how to cook with his iron sand palm? Little cat, do you want to eat grilled fish? Jiruo picked up the fish with a smile and waved it at the black cat. The black cat on the tree swallowed its saliva. The strange yet familiar fragrance was constantly stirring the black cat's mind. Its eyes revealed a little desire, but also a little hesitation. Meow, meow, meow. Come on, let me touch you. I'll treat you to fish. Jiruo said with a smile. He looked like a bad uncle who tricked a little girl to see goldfish. Of course, it was impossible for Jiruo to be a bad uncle. After all, he was younger and more handsome. The black cat was hesitant. Even Liang Shixian could see how conflicted the cat was. That dawdling look was even more adorable. Then, perhaps it was because it was really hungry, or because of Jiruo's title of diplomatic spokesperson, the black cat slowly came down from the tree. It walked toward Jiruo, stopping after every step. Perhaps the temptation of the iron sand palm grilled fish was too great, but before the black cat could come to a conclusion, it had already walked to Jiruo. Jiruo squatted down and passed the fish to him. Meow, meow, meow. Eat, eat. Jiruo talked to the black cat in his self-created cat language and translated as he spoke. The black cat looked at Jiruo, as if it didn't understand what the creature was saying. Liang Shixian was left speechless and thought, childish. How childish? The black cat carefully licked the grilled fish that Jiruo handed to him. Then, its eyes lit up and it began to eat it. The black cat's eyes were filled with satisfaction and happiness. It had never eaten such delicious fish before. Even though Jiruo had only roughly cooked it with iron sand palm without adding any seasoning, the taste might be unbearable for humans, but for the black cat, it was the difference between raw and cooked food. In a sense, It was the first time in his life that he had eaten something so delicious, which completely changed the black cat's eating habits. Jiruo put the fish on the ground in front of the cat and patted the cat's head. The black cat's body stiffened, and then, perhaps because being touched on the head really felt good, it began to enjoy it while eating the grilled fish. At the same time, congratulations for triggering a functional achievement, a stray cat will come to my side just by casually playing with it. Acquired title, Beast Master. Beast Master comes with the special skill of establishing contracts. You have received universal language. Contract: when both parties have no obvious resistance and their strength is similar, they can sign a contract with creatures of different races and reach a contractual relationship with a master and a servant. Universal language, a common language, and ability to communicate without barriers. Remark: the contract has been formed. The one who breaks his promise will be punished by the rock. Remarks: unobstructed communication is the foundation of all contractual relationships. Remark: be a kind and loving child. Jiruo was ecstatic. This achievement was actually a title reward. He happily scratched the black cat's chin, and the black cat closed its eyes in comfort. Is it good? Meow. Meow. It's delicious. How yummy. As expected, he could understand the cat now. Universal language was terrifying. Do you want to eat more delicious grilled fish? Jiruo was even happier. Seeing Jiruo start to chat with the black cat, Liang Shixian covered his face helplessly. You're really talking. Meow. I want to eat it. Then, sign a contract with me. After the contract is signed, I'll take you to eat something good, Jiruo said. He had already tested universal language, so he planned to try contract again. Besides, it was not unacceptable to have a cat. This black cat was born in the secret realm of Myriad Beast Mountain. Whether it was a demon or a demon, it was naturally of a higher grade than all the cats that were sold in the human market. How could an ordinary cat be compared to a cat from the secret realm? Meow, meow, meow. Okay, okay. At this moment, the black cat had not realized the problem. If its sister woke up, it would probably be so angry that it would go back to sleep once again. It asked the black cat to live, but it ended up as a human's pet in the end. How was this taking revenge? Contract complete. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a new pet. Click to check pet details. This is it, he thought. Jiruo was dazed for a moment. Suddenly, he felt a sense of control over the black cat. It was a master-servant contract. The black cat also felt close to Jiruo. After the grilled fish, it rubbed against Jiruo's pants. Meow, meow, meow. Master, I'm still hungry. Subconsciously, it called out master, but the black cat did not feel that it was inappropriate. I'll catch fish for you. Let's have a big meal today. Jiruo laughed. Liang Shixian was speechless and wondered, did he really understood the cat? Why is his conversation seemingly real? Jiruo picked up the black cat. The cat was only 1 or 2 months old, so Jiruo put it on his head. Then, he walked to the stream and squatted down. He activated the breath of thunder and lightning flash. With his hand speed, he fished the fish out of the stream one by one. Whether he should say it or not, Jiruo was really down to earth. He used the iron sand palm to cook and the flash of lightning to catch fish. The black cat's eyes sparkled as it watched Jiruo throw the fish onto the grass. As if recalling the scene of him catching fish, he cheered, meow. Master is so powerful. Little cat, let me give you a name. Jiruo smiled. How about prosperity? The black cat's nose wrinkled. Meow, 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 what an unpleasant name. I don't want this. I have a name. You have a name. The black cat raised its chin and said, meow. Of course, my name is Luo Jian. This little kitten actually had its own name. Also, this name doesn't look like a demon or a demonic beast, he thought. Jiruo was curious, so she clicked on little Luo Jian's detailed introduction. It took a day after he clicked on it. Chapter 31. Enough, Jiruo. That's enough. We won't be able to finish eating it if there's more. Liang Shixian took off his dirty coat and put away the 20-odd fish that Jiruo had caught. These fish were not big, and each of them only 2 fingers wide. However, 20 of those fishes were still a lot. Although the 2 of them had advanced to level 7 martial apprentice, the breakthrough of the apprentice stage was not a qualitative change. People who practiced martial arts had a lot of appetites, but there was still a limit. These many fishes were enough. Alright. Jiruo stopped catching fishes. He thought, why didn't I trigger any achievement when fishing with bare hands? Jiruo stood up, held little Luo Jian in his arms, and headed back to the place where the tree demons were stationed. Jiruo, are you really going to keep this cat? Liang Shixian could not help but ask. Of course. Jiruo rubbed little Luo Jian's head and answered, Luo Jian is so cute. Why can't I raise her? Luo Jian. Yes, that's its name. Liang Shixian was speechless. You have even come up with a name. Hee. That's right. Jiruo looked happy on the surface, but he was actually surprised deep down. It was because Luo Jian's details panel was a little strange. Name, Luo Jian. Race, unknown. Type, demonic devil. Stage, infant. Talent, illusion. Remark, little Luo Jian seems to be a very mysterious cat. What the hell does the system mean by unknown race? Furthermore, it's a demonic devil. Jiruo wondered. He stroked the cat and suddenly thought of a particular piece of knowledge. There was a huge difference between demons and devils. Normally, all aspects of a demon would improve proportionally with the increase in strength. Other than intelligence, which would stop growing after reaching a certain level, all other aspects could theoretically continue to grow. Devils, on the other hand, could evolve by devouring their own kind and quickly increase their own level. It was just that devils did not advance as quickly as demons. Moreover, in the early stages, the intelligence of devils was generally low. Even if they had reached a level equivalent to pulsing realm of the humans, they would still only act based on instinct. At most, they would have some simple ideas in their instinct. That was why Jiruo was so surprised when he saw the goblins talking. The Spider Queen and the 6-tentacle catfish, who were more powerful, could not speak. Demons always strengthened their bodies, but devils did not. Most of the devils had all kinds of strange innate skills, but their physical strength was not outstanding. In the later stages, the evolution of devils did not even care about physical strength. They only strengthened intelligence, or rather, spiritual power. This was the difference between the two. One was strengthened in an equal ratio in the early stages and had high intelligence, but it didn't matter in the later stages. The other one did not care much about intelligence or physical strength in the early stages, only rapidly evolving. But in the later stages, its intelligence was extremely high, and it could master many magical abilities. And the so-called demonic devils were the mixed blood of demons and devils. In Jiruo's previous life, it was widely known that mixed bloods were pretty or handsome, and some of them even had outstanding intelligence. This inexplicably instilled the wrong idea that all hybrids are handsome and beautiful into the world. But in fact, there were more than a few hybrids. There were ugly and stupid mixed bloods, but people subconsciously did not treat them as mixed blood. Neither good-looking nor smart. What kind of mixed blood are you? Mixed blood from the neighboring village. The probability of being a mixed blood was very mysterious as it involved the problem of inheritance. Not only did it apply to humans, but also to devils and demons. The mixed blood of a devil and a demon was called a demon. Because of the probability of inheritance, demons were divided into several types. There were top-grade mixed bloods who inherited all the advantages of both the devil and demon bloodlines, normal mixed bloods who only inherited one talent, low-grade mixed bloods who inherited one talent but the inherited talent was weaker than the original due to the conflict of the bloodline, and low-grade mixed bloods who had the conflict of the devil and demon bloodlines, which completely offset the talent. There were countless species of devils and demons, and even the humans who had always been hostile to them did not dare to say that they had a complete record of all the species of devils and demons. Every single demonic devil could be considered a completely new race. As for the talent and development potential that the demon beast inherited, it depended entirely on luck. And because of that, it was easy to understand why Luo Jian's race was unknown. This little guy was a new species. However, Luo Jian had an innate ability. Although Jiruo did not know how effective it was, no matter how bad it was, it should at least be a third-grade demon, or slightly weaker. But it didn't matter even if Luo Jian were weak. Pets were not raised to fight. Jiruo rubbed Luo Jian's head and comforted, little Luo Jian, don't worry. I won't despise you. Luo Jian raised her head and looked at Jiruo in confusion. Meow. Liang Shixian did not want to say anything to Jiruo anymore. Jiruo would not listen even if he did, and Jiruo would not change his ways. He will still be childish. What was there to say? Liang Shixian mused. The two humans and one cat returned to the day camp of the tree demons. There were dozens of tree demons gathered here. Although they were all in a dormant state, there was still a faint demonic energy spreading out. The demonic energy was not strong. Its only function was to inform the surrounding creatures that there was already a demon here. Creatures that could sense this faint demonic energy would generally not come over in this situation, or it could be said that they were too lazy to come over. The tree demons were not delicious, and the quality of the spirit fruits it bore was not high, so it would be a waste to come. As for those who could not sense them, although they would come over, the tree demons had already prepared the spirit fruits to entertain them, so there was no need to worry. Therefore, Jiruo and the others were safe here. Class President, go and pick some scarlet heart pepper and hemp branches. Oh, And some white spirit fruits too, Jiruo said. What are you up to now? Liang Shixian asked, slightly confused. If we roast this fish, it'll have a strong fishy smell. Shouldn't we marinate it first? Liang Shixian was speechless. Okay then. He felt that the martial arts examination was progressing in a weird direction. The sense of déjà vu was getting stronger and stronger. Liang Shixian turned around to pick up the things Jiruo had said. It should be mentioned that the spirit fruits born by the tree demons were not biased, and they could grow whatever they wanted. Even the same tree demon could grow 3 or 4 different kinds of spiritual fruits. The substitutes for some seasonings could also be found on the tree demons. Jiruo had already observed them. Liang Shixian was picking fruits when he was startled by a loud noise behind him. He turned around and was dumbfounded. Jiruo, why did you cut that tree demon? What if they wake up? I'm going to get a container for marinating these fish. Don't worry, I'll just cut off a part of it. These tree demon have strong vitality. I'll just put it back later, said Jiruo nonchalantly. Once the tree demon went to sleep, its body and mind would fall into a deep sleep, and the quality of its sleep would be excellent. In addition, the tree demon's vitality was extremely strong, and its perception ability was very weak. As long as they were not burned directly, they would not wake up even if they were cut in half. They were indeed extremely cautious. Last night, Jiruo discovered this point because he almost overturned the tree demon when he crawled out of the ground. After all the tree demons were still conscious at that time. They did not feel any pain. They had senses, but it was not very clear. Even if a tree demon was cut in half, at most, its quality of sleep would be slightly worse. He put it back. Class president, don't just stand there. The earlier it's marinade, the earlier we can eat grilled fish. As Jiruo spoke, he drew out his sword and cut a big hole in the middle of the tree trunk. After that, he poured the dying fish that Liang Shixian had wrapped in his school uniform into the hole that had just been dug out. Jiruo dug a hole in the ground, buried Liang Shixian's uniform, and stepped on it. Class president. Jiruo said, your school uniform is stained with the fishy smell of fish. You have to bury it in the soil to cover the smell. Liang Shixian was left speechless and thought, he knows how to behave vigilantly at this time. Chapter 32. The peppercorn that could replace the mac pepper, the scarlet heart pepper that was spicier than the millet pepper, the white spirit fruit that tasted sweet and sour. Jiruo crushed all of them and placed them into the empty holes of the tree stumps. Then, he started to marinate the small fish. Liang Shixian told Jiruo not to be so arrogant, but when he was looking for seasonings, he found some fruits that could be used as substitutes for scallions, ginger, and garlic. Meow, meow, meow. Master, are you still not done? Hurry, hurry, hurry. Luo Qian was lying on Jiruo's head. She was looking at the colorful fish in the hollow of the tree trunk with longing eyes. She was getting impatient. A strange aroma entered her nose, and Luo Qian could not wait any longer. Don't worry, it'll be even more delicious after marinating. It's definitely a delicacy you've never tasted before, Jiruo said with a smile. Jiruo had no idea how these small fish grew, but the bones in their bodies became crispy under high temperatures. When Luo Qian ate the first fish, Jiruo observed that the bones of these small fish could be crushed with a pinch of her fingers after they were cooked. They must taste good. He slashed the small fish one by one, making them delicious. Ah, no. The cute little fish is more flavorful when marinated, he mused. Let's marinate it for about half an hour, Jiruo said, glancing at his watch. This was a device specially made for the martial arts examination. It was originally used to record scores and send out distress signals. But now that the Myriad Beast Mountain secret realm had changed, the basic network of the secret realm built by humans had long been scrapped. This watch could be considered to lost half its function. Jiruo could only look at the time and record his scores. There was no internet for him to upload data. If he recorded too many scores, it would easily fill up the memory of this device. Therefore, Jiruo could only use this device to look at the time for now. While they were waiting, Jiruo continued to teach Liang Shixian Thunderbolt Flash. In essence, Thunderbolt Flash could only be considered an ordinary sword drawing skill, but when used in conjunction with a special breathing technique, its power could not be underestimated. Other things aside, if Liang Shixian could learn and use the breathing technique in a short period of time, then the survival rate of the two of them in the secret realm would definitely increase greatly. Although in this case, even if it increased greatly, the overall survival rate would still be very low. Meow, meow, meow. Master, you can go by yourself. I want to stay with my fish. Okay, but don't eat it secretly. It's easy to get diarrhea if you eat raw food, Jiruo said as he put Luo Qian down. Luo Qian squatted by the tree stump and looked at the more than 20 small fish in the hole. They were colorful and looked very delicious. Luo Qian drooled. Gulp. It turned to look at Jiruo and Liang Shixian, who were engrossed in teaching and learning respectively. Luo Qian suddenly thought, there's so much fish, it should be fine to secretly eat a little. No. Master said that I can't eat it secretly. Maybe just a little bit to try the taste. After making sure that Jiruo and the others were not looking at it, Luo Qian carefully reached out its claws. She hesitated for a while and picked up a piece of scarlet heart pepper instead of the fish. I'm just trying it out, it's not stealing. It convinced itself and swallowed the scarlet heart pepper. This taste. Luo Qian jumped off the stump and ran around in a panic. It ran to the tree demons and meowed anxiously, as if it was running to tell them something. Meow. 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 Spicy. Spicy. It's so spicy. When Jiruo came back half an hour later, he saw Luo Qian lying on the ground with a sorrowful look. He chuckled. Didn't I tell you that you'll have diarrhea if you eat raw food? All right, it's almost marinated to the point where the taste can be felt. Just wait a moment, we can start eating soon. Luo Qian said weakly. Meow. I'm not eating anymore, I'm not eating anymore. It's so spicy that I'm dying. Jiruo smiled and ran to the stream to wash his hands. Then, he came back and grabbed a small fish from the hole in the tree stump. He put his hands together. A red light glowed on Jiruo's palms, and the temperature suddenly increased. The temperature of iron sand palm at the mastery level was extremely high. In theory, it was not something that a martial apprentice could control. If Jiruo was already in the pulsing realm, iron sand palm could even burn with raging flames. However, it was not too bad now. With his palms together, it could be considered a double frying pan in a sense. The marinated fish was caught between two sides of his palm. The high temperature cooked the fish by force, and the alluring fragrance slowly wafted in the air. Even Liang Shixian could not help but gulp his saliva. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that he would be able to eat grilled fish in the secret realm of Myriad Beast Mountain. Jiruo roasted one for Luo Qian. The little fellow was still a little scared at first, but it could not resist the alluring fragrance and took a bite carefully. Its eyes glowed as it sat up and pointed at the grilled fish, its upper limbs gesturing wildly. Meow, meow, meow. Master, this is too delicious. Jiruo smiled. Then, he started to cook the fish faster. The two people and the cat ate until their mouths were full of oil. They did not even let go of the bones. Luo Qian lay on the ground, rubbing its round belly, and said in satisfaction, meow. So comfortable. Jiruo took a look. Okay, it's a female cat. I don't know if it can be raised into a cat girl. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he picked some spiritual fruits for dessert. Jiruo asked Liang Shixian to help him stand up the tree demon that he had cut down earlier and put it back on the tree stump. Liang Shixian was speechless and asked, are you really going to put it back in? He thought to himself, you've already hollowed out its body, so why should you put it back? You can't let our tree demon brother sleep on the ground, can we? It's easy to catch a cold if you sleep on the floor. The two of them worked together and placed the tree trunk back in place. Liang Shixian looked at the obvious knife marks on the tree trunk and asked, if it wakes up at night, I'm afraid it won't be able to leave. The feet of a tree demon were the roots of a tree. The so-called uprooting from the ground referred to the migration of tree demons. This is indeed a problem. Jiruo touched his chin. Jiruo thought for a while and picked up some mud from the ground. He ran to the stream and wet it. Then he ran back and smeared the mud on the wound of the trunk. He clapped his hands and said, this is fine. It was a slight pity that such an exquisite first aid method did not trigger the achievement. Liang Shixian was rendered speechless by his actions once again. What are we doing now? Liang Shixian asked. Jiruo thought for a while, should we take a nap? The tree demons will migrate for an entire night. If we don't take a nap, I'm afraid we won't be able to hold on. Indeed. Liang Shixian agreed. Then, you should sleep first. I'll keep watch for you. It'll be my turn later. That's so troublesome. Jiruo suddenly picked up Luo Qian and asked, little Luo Qian, we're going to sleep now. Can you help us keep watch? You can sleep after we wake up tonight. Little Luo Qian patted its chest and said, meow. Master, don't worry. Leave it to me. All right. Jiruo looked at Liang Shixian. That's enough. Go to sleep. He glanced at Luo Qian thoughtfully and mused, this cat seemed to have high intelligence. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, a series of explosions came from the forest in the distance. Jiruo quickly climbed onto the tallest tree and looked toward the source of the sound. He was at least a few dozen miles away from the explosion, and it had come from the top of the mountain. Thick smoke billowed as a terrifying demonic aura and spiritual auras swept across the area. Ribbit. Damned human. Author remark, this demon had been croaking all day long. Chapter 33. Terrifying demonic and spiritual auras swept out rampantly, alarming countless demonic beasts and devils. Before Jiruo could figure out what was going on, the sleeping tree demon under him suddenly woke up and shook violently. The leaves rustled chaotically. With the help of the universal language, Jiruo finally understood the language of the tree demons. The tree demon under him was saying, "Rustle, rustle, rustle. The situation is not good. Let's evacuate." The universal language ability did not translate the languages of the foreign races, but allowed Jiruo to understand the meaning of the languages. These tree demons did not even wake up after being cut down. At this moment, they were actually awakened by the wantonly spreading demonic aura and spiritual aura. It could be seen how terrifying the spiritual aura was at this moment. The tree demon trembled violently, and its roots rose from the ground. When Jiruo burned the tree demon, these guys weren't even this fast. Because of the tree demon's sudden movement, Jiruo was thrown off the tree demon's body and almost fell to the ground. "Jiruo, what happened?" Liang Shixian asked anxiously. Why did these tree demons suddenly wake up? He didn't know what Jiruo had seen on the tree, and a martial apprentice couldn't sense the presence of demonic aura and spiritual aura. Liang Shixian only felt that it was difficult to breathe, but he did not know what had happened. However, Jiruo did not know either. "I don't know either. It seems like something big has happened at the top of the mountain. Don't just stand there. Let's run together." The tree demons' voices were so chaotic that Jiruo almost couldn't understand them. "Rustle, rustle. How terrifying, terrifying, and terrifying. Rustle, rustle. Let's run. Run, run, and run." The tree demons ran away in panic. Jiruo had planned to follow them, but he heard a loud noise after he picked up the trembling Luo Qian. He turned around and saw the tree demon that Ji Qian had hollowed out to preserve the fish fell to the ground with a slight movement because its wound had not healed yet. The bare stump pulled out its roots from the ground and fled with the rest of the tree demons. It looked very strange. The stump did not realize that its trunk had fallen to the ground. It seemed to have just received an order from itself and began to run. Then, its body separated, and without receiving any more orders, it began to run randomly. The part of the tree demon that had fallen on the ground was shaking its leaves madly, and the rustling sound of the leaves was unprecedentedly strong. "Rustle, rustle, rustle, rustle. Damn it! My body has been eaten away by worms. My body broke. My foot dropped when I was running." Jiruo slowed down subconsciously. "Rustle, rustle, rustle. Damn it! These despicable worms. I didn't even notice. Rustle, rustle. Leader. Save me." In front of them, the thickest tree demon shook its branches and replied, "Rustle, rustle, rustle. Good luck, my fellow tree demon. Evacuation is my top priority." Jiruo stopped. "Class president." Jiruo gritted his teeth after some thought. "Ah. Come and help." Jiruo turned around and picked up the tree that was crying. Liang Shixian was dumbfounded. Why you? Why don't you run for your life? Why are you carrying it?" "Well, I'm a tree demon now, aren't I?" Jiruo cleared his throat. "I'm thinking that we should have a sense of collective honor and not abandon or give up. This will help us to integrate into the big family of tree demons in the future. You really think we're playing house?" Liang Shixian's body was numb from Jiruo's countless antics, but seeing Jiruo carrying Luo Qian on his shoulder and running away with the tree demon, Liang Shixian sighed and came back to carry the tree with Jiruo. He mused, a collective sense of honor, a big family of tree demons, and so on were all nonsense. Both of them were level 7 martial apprentices with good physical fitness. Although it was a little difficult to carry a tree demon, it was considered a heavy cross-country exercise in a sense. Jiruo was carrying the bag closer to the tree crown, and he said to the tree demon in a deep voice, "Comrade, don't cry. We'll take you with us." The meaning of his words was translated into something that the tree demon could understand by the universal language. The tree demon was grateful and shook its branch in response. "Rustle, rustle, rustle. There is true love between the trees, thank you. A good tree will have a peaceful life." Ahem. Jiruo coughed awkwardly. Congratulations to the host for unlocking the secondary function, a collective sense of honor as a tree demon. The effect of the substitution skill has been increased by 10%. Note, put yourself in their shoes first, then you can bring others in. Jiruo was pleasantly surprised, and the slight awkwardness he felt was instantly cast aside. "You're welcome. You're very welcome. We're all tree demons. It's only right for us to help each other." The tree demon was even more grateful. "Rustle. Rustle. You're really a good tree." "Yes, yes." Jiruo smiled. He was starting to doubt if Jiruo could really understand the language of the tree demon. The two of them carried the tree demon and followed the group. After jogging for about half an hour, the tree demon's movement speed was not fast. The main force still had no intention of stopping. Liang Shixian's breathing had already started to become heavy. Jiruo then realized that the two of them had not reached pulsing realm. No matter how strong their bodies were, they were still at the level of humans. Off-road carrying weights consumed a lot of energy. Class President, do you still remember the full concentration breathing I told you about before? Follow my rhythm and breathe together, Jiruo said. Although he had not reached the pulsing realm, Jiruo's breathing was still steady. This was because he had been using the self-created concentrated breathing. Jiruo's self-created version was different from the original version of full concentration breathing. The original version required a long time of practice to be maintained. However, the version Jiruo created did not require this. When he was creating the breathing technique, he had taken reference from some basic breathing techniques taught in school. Those breathing techniques were compiled by the Deputy Director of the Education Ministry, Mr. Li Yuanqing, who simplified some of the martial arts breathing techniques and incorporated them into the teaching materials. The breathing technique had no other use other than to assist in the circulation of one's vitality and to increase one's control over one's body. In theory, it could allow one to fully exert one's strength or physical strength, and the consumption was almost negligible. Jiruo was referring to those breathing techniques, and with the help of imagination and the buff of knife sword ambidexterity, he had created full concentration breathing. In theory, it combined all the advantages of basic breathing techniques he knew. 10% of the power could display 15% or even 20% of the effect. Liang Shixian was stunned for a moment, but he did as he was told. After a few days, he had a rough idea of Jiruo's personality. He knew that Jiruo would not trick him. Moreover, the breathing technique Jiruo had taught him was indeed exquisite. After that, he began coughing. Cough, cough, cough. The sudden change in breathing rhythm almost made Liang Shixian unable to catch his breath. He staggered and almost fell. Class President, take it slow. Don't rush. The worst thing to do in martial arts is to be eager for quick success. Chapter 34. 2 hours later, the army of tree demons finally stopped, once again stopping by a stream. To the tree demons, they could lack anything but water. And the reason they stopped was not that they thought they were safe, but because. Rustle, rustle, rustle. I can't run anymore. Rustle. I didn't sleep enough. I'm not running anymore. Rustle, rustle, rustle. So what if I die, who hasn't died since ancient times? Jiruo, who could understand what he was saying, was speechless. These tree demons had actually started to give up. They were talking to each other and promised to be good friends in their next life. Jiruo and Liang Shixian worked together to put the tree demon back on its original stump, perhaps because it was missing a large part of the trunk. It was very light and much faster than the other tree demons. After the tree demon returned to its original position, it kept thanking Jiruo and Liang Shixian. The branches that were dancing wildly and the leaves that were rustling made Liang Shixian a little worried. Did the tree demon realize that they were not tree demons and wanted to attack them, he thought. The other tree demons found that this tree demon, who should have been waiting for death, had followed them. They immediately surrounded it, shaking its branches, and clicked their tongues in wonder. Liang Shixian was extremely vigilant. He clenched the small wooden stick in his hand tightly. Unlike Jiruo, who was still carrying the weapon he had taken at the beginning of the martial arts examination, Liang Shixian's weapon had been lost during the large-scale change in the earth line. Jiruo was not nervous. He could hear the conversation between the tree demons, and he knew that they were just talking about their last words. He chuckled and interrupted from time to time, really treating himself as a member of the big tree demon family. At this moment, the leader of the tree demons came over. Its thick trunk and huge crown cast a shadow over Liang Shixian and Jiruo. A branch with countless green leaves slowly reached toward them. Liang Shixian's heart tightened. He pulled Jiruo and wanted to run, but Jiruo did not move. Don't panic, Class President, Jiruo said with a smile. The tree demon leader's branch shook slightly. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Thank you, fellow brothers. The situation was urgent at that time and we couldn't take care of that comrade. Now that I think about it, I'm still a little ashamed. You're welcome. You're very welcome. It's what I should do, Jiruo said with a smile. The leader continued, Rustle, 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 rustle. By the way, you haven't answered my question yesterday. What kind of tree are you? We tree demons don't reject new members, but I really can't recognize what kind of tree you are. Leader, we are fertilizer trees, Jiruo said after a moment of silence. The tree demon leader's branch froze. Rustle, rustle. Fertilizer tree? What kind of tree is that? I don't know how to explain it. Jiruo continued, but, we can produce fertilizer. Let me show you. Then, In order to make it more convincing, Jiruo ran to the tree demon leader and started relieving himself. Pitter-patter. Liang Shixian was speechless and mused, he's really gutsy. He's peeing at the tree demon's feet. The chief tree demon felt the sudden absorption of nutrients by the roots, and it was shocked. Russell. Unbelievable. It could not see the exact scene, but it could vaguely sense that the nutrients were indeed from Jiruo. It was the fertilizer tree. There was actually such a magical tree species in this world. Jiruo thought for a while and said, Leader, we can digest some non-toxic and harmless spiritual fruits and the flesh and blood of some demon beasts that are edible for ordinary creatures. After a while, we can turn these things into fertilizer for the growth of our tree demon. But the conversion rate is a little low. The tree demons exclaimed, Russell, Russell. A divine tree. That's right. Jiruo gave him a thumbs up and said, we are the divine trees that the tree demon tribe needs for traveling. The leader of the tree demons said, Russell, Russell, Russell. You said that you can digest non-toxic and harmless spiritual fruits and some demon beast flesh and turn them into fertilizer. That's right. Jiruo said. Suddenly, the wind did not stop, and the trees became still. For a moment, the tree demon stopped shaking its branches. Liang Shixian stared at the tree demons nervously. He could only understand Jiruo's words, but not the language of the tree demons. Therefore, he had no idea what was going on, and why the tree demon suddenly stopped moving. Suddenly, he was startled. A tree demon extended a branch with a spiritual fruit on it to Liang Shixian. Russell, Russell, Russell. Here. Digest it? I'll have to trouble you to give me something warm. Liang Shixian did not understand, but it didn't stop him from being confused. The tree demon's actions were like a signal. More and more tree demons extended their branches in front of them, as if they were giving them food. Jiruo did not explain. He just picked a spiritual fruit and said, go on and eat. What are you standing there for? Remember not to run too far when you want to relieve yourself or defecate. Let the tree demon brothers eat something warm. In the beginning, Jiruo didn't expect that he would unlock a new symbiotic relationship with the tree monsters. After thinking for a while, Jiruo said to the leader, Leader, the spiritual fruit can only produce that kind of fertilizer. We can produce another kind of fertilizer that is even more fertile, but we will need the flesh of demon beasts. The effect of diplomatic spokesperson, disguise, immersion was extremely terrifying. In addition to Jiruo's demonstration and the fact that these tree demons did not even have any visible organs, no tree demon would doubt him. The chief tree demon shook its crown and said, Russell, Russell, Russell. Fellow comrades, do you hear that? Let's get going and eat our fill before we die. The terrifying spiritual and demonic aura was still present. The tree demons did not know what the specific situation was, and they could not even think of resisting. However, that did not stop them from enjoying life. There was no conflict. In an instant, the roots under the tree demon's feet surged, and dense branches and vines spread in all directions, frantically attacking some of the low-level demon beasts that were escaping from them. The secret realm of Myriad Beast Mountain was in chaos because of the terrifying spiritual and demonic aura coming from the top of the mountain, but the tree demons were reveling in this chaos. Some tree demons even stuck their branches into the stream and caught fish. They had caught demonic beasts and demons. They kept in mind Jiruo's request, demon beast flesh that can be eaten by ordinary creatures. Therefore, after some monsters were caught, they were thrown away like garbage. The crickets could not be converted by the fertilizer tree. The demons that had been thrown away looked at the tree demons that had fallen into some kind of madness in fear and turned to escape. A moment later, Liang Shixian looked at the large number of demon beasts tied up by branches and vines in front of him and was extremely shocked. Those demonic beasts were still alive and had not been killed by the tree demons. They were struggling with all their might. However, these low-level demonic beasts, who had already been scared out of their wits by the demonic and spiritual aura coming from the mountain top, were unable to break free. That's right. Jiruo said happily, line up and do it one by one. The demon beasts must be alive so that we can digest them more easily. Don't worry, everyone will get a share of the fertilizer. The reason why they wanted to keep it alive was that Jiruo and the others couldn't finish it all at once. There were no preservation methods in Myriad Beast Mountain, and if the demonic beast meat was left for too long, it would go bad. Then, Jiruo turned to Liang Shixian and said, Class President, come and help us. We'll have a feast today. Liang Shixian looked at Jiruo in confusion as Jiruo started to kill the demons and cut their skin and meat. He had a strong desire to vent internally. The style of this martial arts examination was heading was more and more abnormal. Class President, what are you doing? Don't just stand there. Jiruo saw that Liang Shixian was rooted on the ground and could not help but urge him. Liang Shixian took a deep breath. He wanted to tell Jiruo not to be so arrogant, but his words changed when they reached his mouth. Do you want to marinate the meat first? Chapter 35. Little Luo Qian was in Jiruo's arms, clutching tightly to Jiruo's clothes. It kept its eyes closed and mumbled, meow, 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 meow. You can't see me. You can't see me. You can't see me. Jiruo held a knife in one hand and slashed the meat of the demonic beasts. Liang Shixian quickly applied the prepared seasoning on the demon beast meat every time he cut off a single piece. There was no time for them to marinate the meat. Moreover, this was real demonic beast meat. Jiruo's palm turned red. He used all his power to roast the meat that had been seasoned. The high temperature generated by iron sand palm cooked the demonic beast meat at an extremely fast speed. Even Jiruo himself didn't realize that the iron sand palm he obtained through unlocking the achievement seemed to have some extremely magical special effect in cooking. The remark for this achievement was iron sand palm and fried rice are a perfect match. From the note, Jiruo's martial arts skill could be used for cooking. Logically speaking, when he used iron sand palm to stir-fry the raw rice, the cooked rice should have been very hard because he did not add water. However, this was not the case. The rice fried with iron sand palm was sweet and delicious. It was full and soft, and the taste was excellent. This achievement martial art seemed to have a special bonus in terms of cooking. The alluring aroma wafted in the air. Jiruo stuffed a piece into his mouth and chewed it as soon as it was cooked. He ate a piece and gave another piece to Liang Shixian. It was a seamless connection. Class President, hurry up and eat it while it's hot. Slow down, I'm choking a little, Liang Shixian said vaguely. Now, he did not have to worry about his safety. It was useless to think about it. Jiruo seemed to have his own unique way of living in the secret realm. Also, it seemed Jiruo's idea was much better than his. Little Luo Qian had been mumbling in Jiruo's arms, but the screams of the demon beasts around had frightened it. But gradually, the rich fragrance that flooded her nose gradually made her confused. She sneakily stuck her head out of Jiruo's chest and was shocked. Meow, meow, meow. Master. Why didn't you tell me when you were eating? Ha ha ha. I forgot. Come, and eat too. Jiruo chuckled and gave Luo Qian a piece of meat. Luo Qian happily took the roasted meat and said, meow. Thank you, master. For some reason, she forgot about her fear. The demonic beasts that had been tied up were struggling and screaming, but as the smell of Jiruo's meat became stronger, they slowly turned to look at Jiruo's hands. Roar. What's that? Chirp. Chirp. It smells so good. Whoa. Give me a bite? Let me have a bite. Jiruo could not be bothered to care about the food reserves. You're all going to be at the table, so why are you eating? He mused. The two humans and one cat ate quickly. To Jiruo's surprise, his proficiency in iron sand palm was also increasing at a steady rate. He was getting closer and closer to the perfection level. The red color was deeper, and the temperature was higher. The efficiency of roasting meat had greatly increased. Jiruo understood the reason. It turned out that apart from fried rice, iron sand palm could also increase one's proficiency through cooking. Liang Shixian's mouth was full of oil as he ate, and his body was extremely warm. The flesh of a demonic beast contained a large amount of blood and flesh essence. It was the best supplementary resource for martial arts cultivation. After all, a martial artist's cultivation required a large supply of vitality. How could one practice martial arts without eating meat? The reason he felt hot and dry was entirely because of the large amount of demonic beast meat supplied to his body, which was becoming more and more abundant. Jiruo was in a similar situation, and his face was red. When he saw that it was about time, he stopped roasting meat and began to practice martial arts to help with digestion. Jiruo used the full concentration breathing technique, which he had created by referencing a large number of basic breathing techniques, to work together with his martial arts movements and digest the demonic beast meat in his stomach. The law of swinging one's palms, kicking one's legs, and doing things to one's heart's content was not applicable to martial artists. Martial arts was about moving. As long as Jiruo had enough energy, he could keep cultivating. Jiruo had just broken through to a level 7 martial apprentice not long ago, and now he was improving at a speed visible to the naked eye. After all, although they were all low-level demonic beasts, they were still extremely high-end ingredients for martial apprentice martial artists to practice martial arts. Full concentrated breathing was also a breathing technique created by Jiruo that allowed him to control his body with high efficiency. Of course, while the growth rate was not slow, the digestion rate was also very fast. After more than 10 minutes of high-intensity practice, Jiruo felt like relieving himself. Martial artists had a strong digestive ability, and full concentration breathing could even enhance it. With so many beasts waiting to be slaughtered, Jiruo did not even need to consider the possibility of wasting them and quickly digested them. A moment later, Jiruo found a hidden place and dug a toilet. Liang Shixian's digestion was slower. After Jiruo was done, he stood up and said to the leader of the tree demons, "Leader, the first batch of fertilizer has been converted. There's not much, you guys can split it among yourselves." Russell, Russell. Good, good, good. Fellow brother, I'm really grateful to you. The tree demon leader was overjoyed. The rest of the tree demons were also very happy. Russell, Russell. The conversion speed is so fast. Russell, Russell. As expected of a godly tree. In fact, these tree demons could directly kill the demon beasts, and it could also have the effect of fertilizing themselves. However, in that case, they would have to wait for the demonic beast's corpse to rot and slowly absorb the nutrients. It would take too long, and they could not absorb it directly. However, things like feces were different. They could absorb it very quickly. Jiruo happily asked Liang Shixian to dig a toilet like him after he was done digesting. He ran to the stream to wash his hands, then came back and picked 2 fruits to eat. It was healthy to eat meat and vegetables. After resting for a while, Jiruo started to roast meat again. It was a little boring, but he was a martial artist. How could he not endure such a little hardship? It's just a small problem. I can overcome it, he thought to himself. Little Luo Qian was a demonic devil. From pet details, her talent was illusion. However, Jiruo felt that this little guy might have some hidden talent. She could always eat until she was full, but she did not go to the toilet. She just lay on the ground and rested for a while before he continued eating. She's only eating without relieving or defecating. Is she Griffin's distant relative? Jiruo wondered. The 2 humans and 1 cat kept eating and digesting at a high speed. When the night of the 4th day fell, Jiruo had already become a level 8 martial apprentice. The other changes were not that obvious, but his appetite had increased. An hour later, Liang Shixian had also completed his breakthrough. After the 7th round of eating, Liang Shixian practiced martial arts to aid his digestion. He smacked his lips and sighed, "Jiruo, why do I feel like we will be able to break through to the level 9 marital apprentice after this exam?" After eating for half a day, he felt nauseated at the sight of meat, but the effect was really obvious. Jiruo laughed. That's a small estimate. There are still 2 days left before the martial arts examination. I think we can try to reach the divine stage of martial apprentice. Come on, let's continue eating. Meow. Let's eat, and eat. Liang Shixian's expression was complicated as he said, "Wait for me to digest, I feel nauseated." Never in his wildest dreams did he think that he would one day be able to eat demonic beast meat until he vomited. Chapter 36. In the second half of the night, Jiruo and Liang Shixian stopped eating. They could not eat anymore and felt disgusted at the sight of meat. Moreover, their body could not take the process of eating and defecating anymore. "Leader, that's all for today. We really can't convert anymore. Let us rest properly." Russell. Russell. Okay, okay. You guys have a good rest. Ha ha ha. The heavens have blessed my tree demon clan. I can't believe I met such a magical tree like you. Ha 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 ha. Jiruo smiled. His body was full of vitality, and his iron sand palm was about to reach the perfection level. There were still 2.5 days left. If nothing went wrong, he and Liang Shixian would definitely become level 9 martial apprentices. He didn't expect to gain so much from the martial arts examination. Jiruo stood up and said, "Class president, can you take a picture of me with my watch?" "You want me to take a picture?" Liang Shixian could vaguely understand Jiruo's thoughts, so he did not try to persuade him. "It's not like we'll encounter the situation every time. Of course, we'll have to take photos and record the memory." Jiruo made a peace sign with his back to the demon beasts that were bound by the tree demons. He smiled brightly. Liang Shixian shook his head slightly and took Jiruo's watch. Apart from some special functions, this watch was a high-tech product, so it naturally had a camera function, and the resolution was not low. Click. "I'm done." Liang Shixian pressed the shutter. He returned the watch to Jiruo. In the picture, Jiruo was smiling brightly, with a black cat on his head, like a black felt hat. The background of the photo was a group of ferocious-looking demon beasts bound by branches and vines, as well as a large group of tree demons. The background and the smile on Jiruo's face didn't match, but the scene was surprisingly harmonious. Congratulations to the host for successfully unlocking a functional achievement. We certainly have to take pictures to record happy times. Acquired talent, clock in. Clock in, you can obtain a certain degree of all-round quality bonus by taking pictures to record happy times. The bonus effect depends on the degree of happiness and the background. Current all-rounded multiplier, 0.01%, growable. Remarks, I'm here. I'm here to see. I'm here to record. I'm here to conquer. This talent was awesome. Luo Qian, who was lying on his head, looked at the image on her watch curiously. Meow, meow, meow. Ah, master. There's a cat inside that looks like me. It seems to have another master. It's so strange. Haha. This is called a photo. Jiruo was in a good mood. He briefly explained to Luo Jian what a photo was and then handed the watch to Liang Shixian. Class president, your photography skills are not bad, Jiruo rambled happily. Liang Shixian had given him a growth-type functional skill. How could he not be amazing, he thought. Take a few more pictures. Just a few more pictures, Jiruo uttered. All right, he said. Liang Shixian took the watch and was about to take a picture. He pondered for a while and suddenly turned around. Liang Shixian pointed the camera at himself and Jiruo, who was behind him, and smiled happily. He had already been influenced by Jiruo. All of a sudden, a strong wind blew. Little Luo Qian seemed to have sensed something and her expression changed drastically. Meow, mass dash. A huge figure appeared next to Jiruo in a flash, and its huge shadow covered half of the forest. Luo Qian continued, be careful. Jiruo broke out in a cold sweat, and his hair stood on end. All the demonic beasts held their breath and did not dare to move. Liang Shixian turned his head to take a look. He was so shocked that his eyes rolled back and he fainted on the spot. The wind howled, but the tree demons remained still, not even daring to shake their leaves. Jiruo turned his head slowly, and his body was stiff. He saw two golden pillars suddenly appear beside him. Jiruo swallowed with difficulty and slowly looked up. That was not a pillar. It was clearly two huge legs. Judging from its claws, it was a bird-type demon. In the deep, dark night, this enormous bird monster's entire body was emitting a dark green light, and its height was probably several dozen meters. Jiruo instantly recognized this huge bird demon as the wind god Falcon, one of the rulers of the sky in the secret realm of Myriad Beast Mountain. Its flying speed was several times faster than the speed of sound, and its feathers were so tough and sharp that they could cut through metal and stone as if they were vegetables. An adult wind god Falcon was comparable to a fourth realm martial artist's divine stage. Not only that, but this kind of great demon usually had the ability to transform the heavens and earth. This height of tens of meters was probably not its maximum size. Jiruo's body was stiff, and Luo Qian, who was on top of him, was so scared that she did not even dare to think of resisting. Hello, Jiruo forced out a smile that was uglier than crying. Human race. The wind god Falcon tilted its head slightly and spoke in the human language. It seemed to be a little unaccustomed to it, and its speech was not very smooth, and its accent was a little strange. It sniffed gently, and the airflow that was visible to the naked eye rolled back into two tornadoes and entered its nose. Good, it smells good. The wind god Falcon stared at Jiruo with its cold and sharp eyes. What did you guys just eat? Let me have a taste. Oh, okay. Jiruo didn't dare to resist. Perhaps it was because the difference in strength between the two sides was too great, but after a round of dialogue, the title of diplomatic spokesperson was upgraded on the spot, increasing the effect of language appeal by 10%. Jiruo quickly killed a demonic beast that looked like a water buffalo, nimbly skinned, and changed the knife. Then, he sprinkled some spices on it. Facing the huge body of the wind god Falcon, Jiruo's iron sand palm could not cook enough meat for the wind god Falcon to have a taste in a short time, so he had to start a fire. Jiruo did not want to harm the tree demons, so he used iron sand palm to light up an ordinary tree. The tree demon beside the flames was so afraid that it didn't even dare to move. Jiruo started to roast the demon beast with full concentration. In order to speed up the process and make it more convenient for him to roast the demon beast, Jiruo patted the demon beast's body with iron sand palm while he was roasting it. The hidden cooking effect of this martial skill took effect quietly. Even Jiruo was surprised that the whole demonic beast had cooked so quickly. The wind god Falcon watched as Jiruo roasted the demonic beast meat. The color of the meat gradually turned golden, and a rich aroma rose. A look of interest appeared in its sharp eagle eyes. Hello, Jiruo said carefully, you can eat now. The wind god Falcon opened its mouth and sucked in the entire roasted ox demon meat. After that, the wind god Falcon spread its wings, which were large enough to cover the sky, as if it was applauding. Human, you're not bad, it praised. Jiruo was stunned for a moment, because the progress of his sincere praise from an elder had increased. Follow me back. As the wind god Falcon spoke, it grabbed Jiruo with its claws and was ready to fly into the sky. Do bring my companion. Jiruo shouted. Liang Shixian had already fainted from fear. If he were to stay here alone, things would be bad for him. Although it was not necessarily safe to be taken away by the wind god Falcon with Jiruo, at least Jiruo was still awake and could take care of him. If it did not work, even if he could not escape death, dying in the mouth of the wind god Falcon was much more honorable than dying in the mouths of these low-level demonic beasts. Chapter 37. He can cook too. The wind god falcon asked Jiruo. Jiruo knew what the wind god falcon was talking about, so he nodded his head furiously. He was the one who made the seasonings I spread on the meat. All right. The wind god falcon grabbed Liang Shixian and the others, and with a flap of its wings, it took off. The wind howled. Jiruo was holding the shivering Luo Jian in his arms, caught in the wind god falcon's claw, while Liang Shixian was in the other claw. A crisp chirping sound resounded through the sky. Jiruo understood the meaning of the cry through the universal language, and he was a little confused. The wind god falcon said, I picked up 2 humans who can cook. What a lucky day. The baby is about to be born. I'll definitely be a good mother. Suddenly, Jiruo had a bold idea. He braced himself and shouted against the strong wind, Auntie, I can help you take care of your child, but can you not eat us? Jiruo had planned to say this. However, the wind god falcon was obviously taking care of his and Liang Shixian's fragile bodies and did not fly too fast, but it still made Jiruo feel very uncomfortable. The strong wind poured into Jiruo's mouth, filling it, and his handsome face was crazily deformed. The words that came out of his mouth also became, ah. Luckily, the translation worked both ways, so the wind god falcon could understand what Jiruo was trying to say. The wind god falcon cried out in curiosity, eh? You can understand what I'm saying. For the convenience of reading, universal language will be directly translated, and onomatopoeic words will not be described. Jiruo continued shouting, indicating that he understood. Through the universal language, the 2 sides used 2 completely different languages to achieve barrier-free communication in the sky. Don't worry. The wind god falcon cried out, I'm not going to eat you. I just want to make a deal with you. From what I can recall, you humans seem to like trading. What trade? Jiruo asked. Although he felt that the phrase humans seem to like trading was a little strange, it was not the time to ask that. It did not matter what the deal was, as long as he could survive. The wind god falcon said, you will make delicious food for me and my child. In exchange, I will allow you to live in my nest. The deal between you humans and our demonic race seems to have always been like this. What do you think? Okay. Jiruo was confused, but he did not dare to say no. He thought, what if the bird gets unhappy and threw us down? A moment later, the wind god falcon brought Jiruo and the unconscious Liang Shixian to an island that was floating 10,000 meters in the air. There was also a huge bird nest on the island. Beside the bird nest, there was a large amount of demon beasts' corpses, but they were all sealed in ice. Jiruo's heart jumped as he looked at them. They were all high-level demon beasts. Next to the corpses were large amounts of spiritual fruits and vegetables. Just the smell of it dazzled Jiruo and made him slightly intoxicated. Jiruo lowered his head and his heart turned cold. The bird nest was built on a huge floating rock. He could not run away even if he wanted to. The wind god falcon put them down, then spread its wings and shrieked. Its huge body was slowly shrinking. After a while, the huge wind god falcon shrunk to a length of nearly 2.5 meters. Although it was still huge, it was much smaller. Jiruo's pupils shrank. As expected, this big bird was able to change its shape as it wishes. I was too big earlier. The wind god falcon cried out, I think you're too slow at cooking, so it's more convenient this way. This time, even Jiruo felt it was unreal. Although he had been having fun ever since he entered the secret realm, he had actually encountered many dangers. Jiruo only managed to escape from danger every time because of the various achievements and rewards. However, no matter how powerful the achievement reward was, there had to be a limit. Once a wind god falcon matured, it would be comparable to an existence at the divine stage of the 4th realm. The one in front of him already had a child, how could it not reach maturity? Jiruo's achievement reward might be effective, but it would not be too powerful. He thought for a while and asked hesitantly, Auntie, are you sure you won't eat us? That careful look was like a primary school student who had done something wrong and was called into the teacher's office. The wind god falcon rolled her eyes, what's so good about eating humans? You have a lot of bones yet so little meat. The taste is not good, and it doesn't fill me up. It also can't increase my cultivation, so why should I eat you? Jiruo was stunned. It seemed to be so. It had only been 2 months since Jiruo transmigrated to this world, and he had the impression that demons and devils were creatures that could eat humans to increase their cultivation, just like the novels in his previous life. However, the reality was not like that. Demons could not increase their cultivation by eating people. Or rather, demons who ate martial apprentices could not increase their cultivation. In terms of vitality strength, a demon would be slightly stronger than a martial art practitioner of the same rank under normal circumstances. Humans would resist when they were being killed, but there was a suppressive relationship between the demons. Those with noble bloodlines or those with powerful strength were innately born with the ability to take away from the weak. The weak would not resist. Therefore, For the demon race, eating other weak demons was much more cost-effective than eating humans directly. Therefore, demons actually did not have the habit of eating people in the beginning. According to the history textbooks, the devils and demons had appeared as invaders in the beginning. The reason they killed people was to snatch their territory. They did not have the habit of eating humans at all. Some of the fierce omnivorous demonic beasts might occasionally eat them, but in terms of taste, there were many creatures that were more delicious than humans. It was only later that humans began to cultivate martial arts, and the cultivation of martial arts required a large supply of vitality. Where did this vitality supply come from? Demonic beasts with powerful physical bodies naturally became their first choice. The humans used battle to sustain battle, fighting to the death, killing, and eating at the same time. As a result, the demons became even more ferocious after eating, and they also began to eat humans. Later, as time passed, this gradually became a tradition of the demon race. Some demons believed that if they did not eat a human, they would not be worthy of being called demons. Of course, this situation could only be said to be the majority, but not all. As for the devils, humans generally did not eat such things. This was due to the devils mainly strengthening their innate abilities or mental power when they advanced. Their flesh and blood were mixed with extremely chaotic mental thoughts. Not only did it taste bad, but it was also easy for people to go crazy from eating it. That was why humans generally did not eat demons. Demons did not like to eat devils either. Devils ate humans, but the reason was purely that at the beginning of the invasion, the three races were in a chaotic war. The other two races ate each other, and there were not many corpses left on the battlefield. The three races fought each other, and all of them wanted to become the overlords of this world. However, after every battle, there would only be the corpses of devils left on the battlefield. The devils felt insulted. Why did demons eat humans and humans eat demons, but not devils? At the end of each battle, the battlefield was full of the corpses of devils. Those who did not know better would think that devils were the weakest among the three races. So, in their anger, the devils also began to eat people. At the same time, they ate demons. Even though this part of history was described as a bit nonsensical, the dark humor in it would deepen the students' memories the most. Jiruo pouted. When the original host was learning about martial arts, he thought it was a little funny. How could devils start eating people for such a ridiculous reason? However, when Jiruo personally heard the wind god Falcon say, "You have a lot of bones yet so little meat. The taste is not good, and it doesn't fill me up. It also can't increase my cultivation, so why should I eat you? It is completely useless," he almost rolled up his sleeves to prove himself. Luckily, Jiruo was able to control his competitive nature. The wind god Falcon continued, "It's only those so-called high-level martial artists that have some value to be eaten. But those guys are really fierce when it comes to fighting. It's so troublesome to eat them. Killing one is like poking a hornet's nest. It's so annoying. I can't be bothered to eat them." Jiruo was speechless. Hearing the evaluation of the humans by the overlord of the skies, the wind god Falcon, in the secret realm of Myriad Beast Mountain, Jiruo had mixed feelings. Chapter 38. The wind god Falcon reached out its claws and pulled at the unconscious Liang Shixian. When is this guy going to wake up? It'll probably take some time. Jiruo was not sure. The wind god Falcon raised its right wing and stroked its handsome head as it cried out in a crisp voice, "I saw it before. This guy only fainted after he noticed me human. Do you think I'm ugly?" "No, no. Auntie, how can you be ugly?" Jiruo shook his head and gave her a thumbs up. "My companion fainted because your appearance was too perfect." He felt ashamed of his own inferiority and could not bear the pressure in his heart. He fainted because he was ashamed, and not from fear. Diplomatic spokesperson in effect. A 20% increase in speech appeal. The wind god Falcon was stunned for a moment. "Is that so? Then, why didn't you faint?" Jiruo realized that he had dug a hole for himself, but he reacted quickly and answered, "Auntie, I'm different from him. When I see beautiful things, I can't help but take a few more glances. At that time, I was so ashamed that I wanted to faint, but when I thought of how I might not be able to see your perfect face again after fainting, I couldn't bear to faint." Diplomatic spokesperson in effect. Immersion is in effect. Hee. You really know how to talk. Apparently, the wind god Falcon was very satisfied with Jiruo's words. It flapped its wings and said, "Then, our deal is sealed. Don't worry. I won't be as stingy as those guys on the top of the mountain. You can eat whatever you want in my nest as long as you can make delicious food for us after my child is born." Wow. Food and accommodation are included, he mused. Jiruo glanced at the mountain of high-level demonic beasts and spirit herbs that he did not know the name of. He was so excited that he almost jumped. "I'm rich," he exclaimed inwardly. However, What confused Jiruo was that this was the third time the wind god falcon had mentioned the word deal. Also, the mountain peak, was there a human working with the demon on the mountain? There shouldn't, should it, he thought. Although Jiruo had just arrived in this world less than 3 months ago, he knew that the humans in this world had a strong sense of collective honor. They should not be able to do things such as cooperate with demons and devils. Moreover, Jiruo vaguely remembered that the wind god falcon had mentioned something like humans provide food, and they allow humans to live in their nest for the content of the cooperation. What's the meaning of this, he wondered. Jiruo was confused and wanted to ask. All of a sudden, Luo Qian's small head poked out from Jiruo's dirty school uniform and said with tears in her eyes, "Master, are we going to die? When am I dying? I'm so scared." This little guy was terrified of the demonic aura of the wind god falcon, so it activated its innate ability and used an illusion to hide in Jiruo's arms. It had been trembling until now. From the looks of it, it seemed like he could not bear the fear and came out to ask about her date of death. Jiruo patted little Luo Qian's head and comforted her, "Don't worry, we don't have to die this time. Wind god falcon is a very good demon." Wind god falcon. Anti-wind god falcon raised an eyebrow. "That's the name of our species. All wind god falcons are called wind god falcons. There's nothing special about them. I don't like that name. You're not allowed to call me that in the future." "All right then. Then, what should I call you in the future?" Jiruo inquired. "I haven't thought about it yet. I'll tell you when I think about it. I want to give myself a nice name." "Okay." Jiruo smacked his lips. Immersion was a continuous status skill. At this stage, it could give Jiruo a 50% identity bonus. The wind god falcon would not kill him for the time being. It did not have any killing intent, and because of what had happened earlier, it had developed a good impression of him. A non-romantic type of impression, therefore, the immersion continued to take effect, and under the premise that his identity was reasonable, the wind god falcon started to accept Jiruo. The wind god falcon suddenly moved closer and stared at little Luo Qian in Jiruo's arms with its sharp eyes. "You still have a cat?" Perhaps Luo Qian was too weak, the wind god falcon didn't pay much attention to her, plus the effect of Jiruo's immersion, and Luo Qian's own talent in illusion. The wind god falcon had not even noticed this little fellow before. "Aonde, this is my pet. It's not a bad cat," Jiruo murmured. "Don't worry, I won't do anything to her. She's skinny and dark. I can tell she doesn't taste good." As the wind god falcon spoke, it was slightly surprised. What kind of cat was this pitifully weak little fellow? It could actually avoid her perception, she wondered. The wind god falcon almost suspected that this cat was the one that the guys at the top of the mountain were looking for. However, this cat was obviously much weaker. There was a sheer difference in comparison to the powerful cat demon that was at the top of the mountain. Furthermore, this was a black cat. The wind god falcon wanted to say something, but she decided against it after some thought. It's the group of people at the top of the mountain who had a grudge against the cat. What did it have to do with me? My baby is about to be born, she thought. Jiruo heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that. He was worried that wind god falcon might use Luo Qian as a sacrifice. After all, it was his pet. How can it be eaten by other demons after I have adopted it for less than a day? Won't I be a bad pet owner then, he mused inwardly. However, while Jiruo thought this way, Luo Qian was a little unhappy hearing that comment. It was unknown if she had borrowed the courage from Sister Liang, but she actually waved her short cat claws at the wind god falcon and said, "Who are you looking down on? You're not delicious." "I'm really delicious." Jiruo was shocked and quickly pressed the cat's head into his arms. He laughed. Anti-children's words carry no harm. The wind god falcon was stunned for a moment, then she suddenly chuckled. "You're an interesting human. You can actually communicate with two different creatures at the same time." In the conversation just now, Jiruo spoke in human language, the wind god falcon was an eagle cry, and Luo Qian was a cat cry. However, Jiruo could understand and communicate with them without any difficulty. It was so strange. Hee. Jiruo chuckled and changed the topic. "By the way, Auntie, when will your child be born? So, I can prepare food in advance." Hearing this, the wind god falcon flapped its wings and two small green tornadoes visible to the naked eye were sent out. Then, the green tornadoes shrunk and solidified, turning into two watermelon-sized eggs with green air flowing on the surface of their bodies. The wind god falcon looked at its two children with a gentle gaze and said softly, "There are still 5. Jiruo let out a sigh of relief. 5 days later, he would return to Bactria. In these 5 days, the wind god falcon would need Jiruo and Liang Shixian's help to make delicious food, so he would be safe before he returned. 4, 3, 2, 1. Crack. The two giant eggs gave out a clear cracking sound at the same time, and the tender cry of an eagle suddenly sounded. The time they took to break out of the shell was accurate to the second, he mused. Chapter 39. Before the door, there grows a grape tree. Its delicate, and light green leaves have just begun to sprout. A snail carrying its heavy shell. Slowly, inch by inch, it crawls its way to the top. Chirp. Chirp. Meow, meow, meow. Liang Shixian opened his eyes in a daze and heard a strange nursery rhyme. He was still a little confused, but he felt that the voice singing the nursery rhyme was very familiar. Suddenly, Liang Shixian remembered what had happened. He quickly got up from the ground, grabbed Jiruo, and ran away without looking at the current situation. Jiruo, how can you still be in the mood to sing? Let's run quickly. That's a wind god falcon. In a daze, Liang Shixian glimpsed at the huge ice-carved food storage. The countless corpses of demonic beasts in it made Liang Shixian's scalp numb. Ah, class president. You're awake. Jiruo was surprised at first, but before he could say anything, he was dragged away by Liang Shixian. Hurry up and run. He looked back at the three wind god falcons awkwardly and said, I'm sorry, Auntie, Dabeo, and Urbeo. My class president still doesn't understand the situation. I'll talk to him first. Liang Shixian did not seem to have heard it, or perhaps he was too agitated at the moment. He was too focused on running away with Jiruo. The wind god falcon looked at them with interest, but did not stop them. Jiruo was good at raising children, and in this short period of time, because of the immersion, the wind god falcon had a good impression of Jiruo. Moreover, her nest was built 10,000 meters above the ground. These two humans had no way of leaving, so she was not worried at all. Ahem. Class president, listen to me. The current situation is a little different from what you think. We're very safe now. In fact, if Jiruo did not experience the current situation himself, he wouldn't believe it even if someone else told him. It seemed surreal. What do you mean by we're safe? That's bullsh**. That's such a huge wind god falcon, and it's probably an adult. We can't stop it. Let's hurry up and run. At other times, you can do whatever you want, but not now. Liang Shixian used all his strength and ran for his life. He did not even dare to turn his head back. The first look he took had given him earlier had left a deep psychological shadow. No, we're the personal chefs and home tutors of the wind god falcon. We're very safe. What nonsense are you talking about? Do you really think we're playing house? You have to run faster. The wind god falcon's nest was built 10,000 meters above the ground, and its base was a giant floating rock the size of an island. As the altitude was too high and the air was unusually thin, Liang Shixian started to feel dizzy after running for a short while. However, his strong desire to live kept him moving forward. The wind howled in the sky, and the sound was so soft that it was almost inaudible. A moment later, Liang Shixian stood at the edge of the nest with a look of despair. He looked at the sea of clouds in front of him, and his desire to escape disappeared. Jiruo spread his hands and uttered, well, class president, you've seen it? It's not that I don't want to run. I can't. We can't fly, can we? At this time, the wind god falcon, which was still 2.5 meters tall after shrinking in size, flapped its wings and came in front of them. Screech. Since he's awake, let's start cooking. Liang Shixian almost grabbed the sword from Jiruo's back, ready to fight to the death. Fortunately, Jiruo reacted quickly and stopped him. He smiled at the wind god falcon and said, Auntie, don't worry. Our cooking will definitely satisfy you. Screech. Well, let's go. Liang Shixian did not understand what she was saying. He was taken aback by the current situation. Jiruo, what's the situation now? Didn't I tell you, we're very safe now? Why are you running? Jiruo followed behind the wind god falcon and ran. He turned around and waved at Liang Shixian, class monitor, don't just stand there. It's time to cook. Auntie, let's make this for now. I'll have to trouble you to help me defrost it. Jiruo picked a minotaur from the freezer and asked Liang Shixian to pick the seasonings. The two little wind god falcons stuck their heads out of Jiruo's body, looking very adorable. Liang Shixian was dazzled by the countless spiritual plants and precious medicines. The dense fragrance made Liang Shixian slightly intoxicated. There were many spiritual plants and precious medicines that he could not even recognize. Jiruo took a fiery red fruit, cut a small piece with a knife, and put it into his mouth. His face turned red instantly. Ha! Spicy. This thing is so spicy. He panted heavily and stuffed the fruit into the hands of the dumbfounded Liang Shixian. Class president, take this. This thing can be used as chili. Maybe Jiruo's expression was too exaggerated, or something else, but the two little wind god falcons beside him began chuckling. Perhaps due to being newborns, One did not stand and fell to the ground. Following Jiruo's example, little Luo Qian found a bunch of spiritual plants that looked like grapes but had complicated patterns. She ate one carefully. Wah! Her body stiffened and she fell to the ground. Liang Shixian looked at the red fruit in his hand, then at the wind god falcon that was flapping its wings to defrost its meat. His eyes were filled with confusion. He took a deep breath and plucked a grape-like fruit that Luo Qian had just eaten. He pinched off a small piece of skin and carefully put it into his mouth. The strong numbing sensation made Liang Shixian freeze. After he came to his senses, he smoothed his tongue and said, "Jiruo, this is pepper." Obviously, Liang Shixian had already immersed himself in his own role. After a short while, the two humans, one cat, and the two little wind god falcons had gathered enough substitute ingredients. They chopped them up and mixed them into seasonings. On the other side, the wind god falcon had already defrosted the minotaur and used its sharp wings to cut it into strips according to Jiruo's instructions. After that, he simply marinated it. Jiruo's palms turned red and he started to roast the meat. High-grade ingredients were often cooked in the simplest way. His iron sand palm was getting closer and closer to the fourth level, perfection. The temperature was so high that even the air around Jiruo was filled with heat. His palms were so red that they were turning black. No matter how powerful a demon was, a flesh demon beast was still made of flesh and blood. Furthermore, the minotaur had died long ago and was frozen by the wind god falcon for so long. Jiruo did not even need to use much strength before the meat in his palm started to ooze oil. An alluring aroma filled the air. Although Liang Shixian had said that he was about to throw up from eating too much meat, the minotaur meat was of a higher grade. The spirit herbs and precious medicine that were used as seasonings were also of a higher grade. He could not help but drool again. The two little wind god falcons were the same, drooling as they looked at the meat in Jiruo's hands. The wind god falcon chimed in, "Mommy's not lying, am I? It's really fragrant and delicious. Screech, screech. I want to eat." Soon, Jiruo finished roasting a piece of meat and passed it to the two little wind god falcons. He knew the importance of this task. Luo Qian was extremely eager, but when she looked at the wind god falcon beside her, she suppressed her desire. Jiruo continued to roast the meat. While he was roasting the meat, he finally asked the question that had been on his mind. "By the way, Auntie, can you talk about the long-time cooperation that you mentioned before?" Chapter 40. "Oh, that. Don't you know? I thought you humans already knew about it." The wind god falcon replied nonchalantly, "Screech. It's actually not a big deal. It's just that 100 years ago, a very weak human came to the Myriad Beast Mountain and did something with the demon on the peak of the mountain. I think it was resource exchange. Yes, it was resource exchange. Someone actually made a deal with demons and devils." Jiruo was stunned. Jiruo found it hard to accept the experience and the people he had come into contact with. The wind god falcon replied, "Screech. Yes. I don't really like to be with those guys at the top of the mountain, so I wasn't there at the beginning. It was only after they came to an agreement that they let me know. He told me not to go to the foot of the mountain and kill any humans. What kind of joke is this? I'm too lazy to kill them. Humans are so vengeful. It's very annoying to attract a group of them if I kill one. They called me over for such a trivial matter. I was so angry that I beat them up. After that, they rarely came to me." The foot of the mountain. Jiruo was deep in thought. He felt like he had grasped something. It seemed that the area controlled by humans was at the foot of the mountain. More than 100 years ago was the time when the Mystic Realm's martial examination system was implemented. High-level demons like the wind god falcon could not leave at will. Because once she left, she would definitely attract the siege of countless high-level martial artists. Whether she could win or not was another matter. No one liked to find trouble for themselves. Demons were not united. If a great demon or demon was attacked, it would most likely give other demons the opportunity to divide its property. Then, do you know the details of the deal? Jiruo asked again. Screech. That weak human gave those guys at the top of the mountain a treasure that seems to be able to control part of the spatial power. Also, they promised that as long as the demons don't go to the foot of the mountain to kill the weak humans, the humans won't send any powerful cultivators to Myriad Beast Mountain. She went on, that is to say, if a weak human like you were to die in the Myriad Beast Mountain, no powerful human would come to seek revenge. That's the general idea. You humans seem to treat the foot of the mountain as a trial ground, and your life and death are up to fate. The wind god falcon continued, Screech. Both humans and low-level demons have suffered casualties over the years. In general, more low-level demons have died. However, those guys at the top of the mountain felt that humans were really stupid to send some weak humans to their deaths after giving them treasures. In their eyes, this was the humans consuming their own strength. Lastly, she added, they did not have to give anything. All they had to do was promise not to go to the foot of the mountain where they rarely went in the first place, and they would get a treasure for free. Anyway, they were very happy. Jiruo was silent and wondered, what's this? Is this the truth of the martial arts examination? So, the secret realm controlled by humans was obtained through such a trade. He could not quite accept it. I didn't expect that humans would compromise with the demons, Jiruo responded with a heavy heart. The wind god Falcon looked at Jiruo with a strange expression. Screech. Compromise. From what I know, you humans have never compromised. But don't forget, there is a premise to that deal. As long as those guys at the top of the mountain don't break the rules, you humans will not send powerful cultivators into Myriad Beast Mountain. What do you mean? Jiruo was stunned. The wind god Falcon looked at Jiruo and said, Screech. According to my understanding, the premise of a deal, isn't it that both sides of the deal have theoretically equal strength? Those high-level martial artists give even me a headache when I see them. Anti-wind god Falcon's eyes were filled with resentment. Screech. Hundreds of years ago, my floating sky island was a continent. At that time, I took the floating sky continent out of the secret realm. When I got close to your human territory, a powerful martial artist punched the sky. After that, it became like this. So after I came back, I haven't participated in the daydream party of those guys at the top of the mountain. Jiruo gasped. Is the immersion skill so powerful? How could she tell me this? He mused. Auntie, is it appropriate for you to tell me this? Jiruo asked hesitantly. The wind god Falcon answered, I'm telling you this not because I'm afraid of humans, but because I don't want to get myself into trouble. Back then, when I left the secret realm, I wandered around the vast sky without knowing anything and scared some humans. She went on, after that, I was chased and beaten up by that martial artist for several months. Ahem. In short, I'm not afraid, I just find it troublesome. She looked at Jiruo and uttered seriously, I won't hurt you. It's not because humans have the ability to sense if demons have killed humans, but because I don't like killing. My children are just born. Humans can make so many delicious things and look fun. I want them to live a happier life. It's not that I'm afraid of humans. Do you understand? I know. Jiruo smacked his lips. Auntie, I also think that a beautiful bird like you must be very gentle. Although he said that, Jiruo remembered that he had heard a saying somewhere before. Chapter 41, QJ Pulse, changed, 2. Chapter 41, QJ Pulse, changed, 2. Translator, 549690339. The more he emphasized something, the more he cared about it. Chirp dash, 1ts good that you know. Hurry up and roast it. This Onduwind god's son seemed to be a chatterbox. She stared at the roasted meat in Jiruo's hand and said, Chirp dash, 1ve tried to communicate with weak humans like you before. After all, you come here every year. Every time I see you humans making something that looks especially delicious from afar, I can't help but want to exchange it with something I want to eat too. It's a pity that you humans are too timid. Just seeing me can scare you to the point of fainting. Come to think of it, you're the first human in the past 100 years who isn't afraid of me. Hee, didn't I tell you? Auntie, you're so good looking. Why would I be afraid? Jiruo chuckled. If Jiruo had been a little afraid of the wind god Falcon before, he was no longer afraid. Wasn't this just AF***ing otaku who had been beaten up by a high-level martial artist and had a psychological trauma? Oh right, Auntie, since you said that we humans have never compromised, and that we do have the ability to suppress those guys on the mountaintop, then what's going on with the changes in Myriad Beast Mountain during this period of time? Could it be that those guys don't intend to abide by the rules of the deal? Chirp dash, that's not it. I don't know what kind of madness those guys on the mountaintop went on some time ago, but they killed the earth-overturning dragon that was born in the earth vein of Myriad Beast Mountain. As a result, the earth vein became chaotic, and all the regions were in chaos. She looked at the roasted meat in Jiruo's hand and said casually, Chirp besides, having the ability to suppress it and whether or not you can suppress it are two different things. Take me for example. I can beat any one of those guys at the top of the mountain, but there's more than one of them. Jiruo understood the difference in the number of combat units. Liang Shixian didn't understand the wind god Falcon's words and said in confusion, Jiruo, what are you talking about? He was already a little used to Jiruo's ability to communicate with demons. Although he had not figured out the situation, Liang Shixian felt that he had accepted the fact that he had inexplicably become a member of the wind god Falcon's family. It's nothing, Jiruo said casually. Auntie told us to cook faster. She's waiting. To eat? Liang Shixian was speechless. Jiruo, have you forgotten? I don't understand Auntie's words, but I understand yours. What deal? What those guys? The substitution skill never affected a single target, but all the targets around it. Ahaha, is that so? Jiruo laughed awkwardly. How awkward? Tell me about it, Liang Shixian asked curiously. Class president, do you really want to know what those guys are? Jiruo asked seriously. Liang Shixian's expression turned solemn subconsciously. Yes. No regrets. I won't regret it. Liang Shixian's heart gradually became heavy. The more Jiruo was like this, the more he felt that the meaning of those fellows was not simple. All right then. Jiruo said seriously, those fellows is a personal pronoun. Liang Shixian. What the F***ck personal pronoun? The two little wind falcons had limited appetites and were just born, so they went to sleep after eating. As for Auntie Wind God Falcon, it was very difficult to feed her, so this auntie only wanted to taste it. Apart from Luo Qian who was still eating the spiritual fruit, Jiruo and Liang Shixian were also full and were slowly practicing martial arts to refine the meat in their bodies. Class monitor, remember the rhythm of your breathing. Don't mess it up. Let it become a habit, or even an instinct. Jiruo punched and focused his breathing. There was a fine electric current flowing on the surface of his body. He did not know if it was because the food he had eaten was too advanced, but he actually had a faint feeling that he was about to open his meridians. The Wind God Falcon curiously watched the two of them practice. One's this the martial arts of you humans. Although I was also cough, I've experienced it before, but sometimes it's really hard to imagine that such a simple action can actually give you such great power. Jiruo chuckled and didn't explain further. In fact, these movements only allowed people to move their bodies more comprehensively. The real magic was the way they breathed. The arrival of the mystic realm brought spiritual energy. Under normal circumstances, humans could not directly absorb and refine spiritual energy. He could only strengthen himself to a certain extent through his daily activities and breathing. However, it was different when paired with a special breathing technique. A special breathing technique could allow humans to absorb the spiritual energy floating in the void to the greatest extent. Together with the circulation of blood, it could cleanse the entire body. The martial apprentice stage was the foundation of martial arts. There were a total of 9 levels, and these 9 levels were actually a process that allowed the human body to adapt to spiritual energy. During this process, the human body would be strengthened in all aspects, including flesh, bones, and so on. When the strengthening reached a certain level, he could try to open up the energy vein. According to Jiruo's understanding, the so-called opening of the energy vein was equivalent to the bridge connecting heaven and earth in some martial arts novels he read in his previous life. It was also the so-called innate. A stronger ability to absorb spiritual energy, refine, and store spiritual energy allowed martial artists to become extraordinary. With the help of the refined spiritual energy and the transformed blood-bone body, they could perform all kinds of special martial arts. Therefore, it was not necessary to reach the 9th level of the martial apprentice to try to break through the Qi meridian realm. It was just that the success rate of opening the Qi meridian was higher after becoming a 9th level martial apprentice. Jiruo had combined all the known basic breathing techniques with his max level of comprehension, and then he had created it by referring to some of the concepts in the original novel. Although in theory, it was a breathing technique that was paired with a saber technique, Jiruo had absorbed many of the advantages of cultivating the basic breathing technique within the basic framework. It was not like the original novel, and it was also very different from the basic breathing techniques of this world that Jiruo had referred to. Those basic breathing techniques were the most basic breathing techniques that humans had integrated over thousands of years. They were already close to a theoretically perfect state. After Jiruo extracted its essence and integrated it, as well as a large amount of high-grade demon beast meat and spirit herbs, a wonderful reaction occurred. Liang Shixian's shock when he decided to bring up the rear, Li Nanen's sincere praise, the psychological trauma of the Wind God Falcon, his yearning for powerful martial artists. All these feelings merged into a wonderful feeling in Jiruo's heart. Humans had never compromised. Jiruo was happy from the bottom of his heart. The feeling of happiness was like a small spark on a prairie fire. It was a small spark at first, and then it spread rapidly. Jiruo felt the pure happiness from the bottom of his heart. Suddenly, his body shook. Power was generated from the solace of his feet, through his spine, and condensed layer by layer. He was blessed to the soul, and he punched out fiercely. Pow! The sound of a bubble breaking could be vaguely heard in his ears. Then, a strange yet familiar power was no longer obstructed. It poured into Jiruo's body from the Beiwei appointment on his head with a strange rhythm. Whoosh! Whoosh! Jiruo felt as if he could hear the sound of blood flowing in his body, like a great river, surging endlessly. Phew! Jiruo let out a long breath. The white mist that was visible to the naked eye was like a sharp sword that pierced through the barrier between the martial apprentice and the meridian boundary. Years of low-income cultivation had long made Jiruo's body extremely thirsty. These few days in the secret realm, he had been eating high-grade ingredients continuously, making Jiruo's body feel like it had been in a drought for a long time. In addition to the shock and joy he had felt during this period of time, as well as the strong feelings he had gathered from grievance and anger. Hence, there was a qualitative change. Chi Meridian Realm, Success. Chapter 42, Chapter 42, Achievement, Heaven Rewards Hard Work. Chapter 42, Achievement, Heaven Rewards Hard Work. Congratulations to the host for completing the breakthrough after your tireless efforts. Congratulations to little Jiruo for triggering a special achievement, Heaven Rewards Hard Work, number 1. Acquired innate talent, more is better. Big is strong. More is better. When the host obtains or faces growth in terms of quantity, the upper limit of the stage growth will be increased to the theoretical limit of the stage. Cannot be upgraded. Big is strong. When the host obtains or faces growth in terms of size, the upper limit of the stage growth will be increased to the theoretical limit of the stage. Cannot be upgraded. Remark, children who work hard deserve to be rewarded. Remark, your efforts will not be wasted. Remark, no pain, no gain. Work hard, hard-working child. Please grow up healthily and happily. His innate talent instantly took effect, and Jiruo, who had just broken through to the Chi Pulse realm, ate the talent bonus. Originally, when breaking through the Chi Meridian realm, there would be a spiritual energy infusion. Due to the limitation of his physical strength, the extent of the heaven and earth spiritual energy empowerment this time would fluctuate to a certain extent. Endurance, luck, willpower, and so on were all factors that could affect the spiritual energy infusion. A level 9 martial apprentice was the theoretical limit of a normal person's physique, and it was also the level where one could withstand the spiritual influence to the greatest extent. During the spiritual energy infusion, the spiritual energy would cleanse the body to the greatest extent, resulting in extremely intense and continuous pain during the process. How long he could endure it was entirely up to his own will. Moreover, the enlightenment was passive. Under normal circumstances, there was no way to control it, so it also depended on one's luck. But Jiruo was different. The spiritual energy infusion would cause pain. Other than cleansing the body, a large part of the reason was that the newly opened meridians were too small and could not withstand too much spiritual energy. With the big is strong talent in effect, even if Jiruo had just opened his meridians were several times thicker than the average person's. The majestic spiritual energy entered from the Beiwei appointment on the top of his head, followed a special human meridian that did not exist before, and entered the Dance Hong Ake appointment on his chest. It stayed there and flowed into his limbs and bones along with his blood. The meridian had just been opened, but it was already as thick as the meridian of an ordinary Chi Meridian realm martial artist. The effect of the spiritual energy infusion was extremely terrifying. A visible spiritual energy fluctuation gathered above Jiruo's head and formed a vortex with a diameter of several meters. The cleansing of his body brought unimaginable pain to Jiruo. But Jiruo gritted his teeth and persevered. Hence, the more is better talent also took effect. The spirit chi vortex grew a few more circles, and it continued to grow bigger. With the help of the two talents, the quantity and volume of spirit chi began to increase toward the theoretical limit. Jiruo had broken through when he was a level 8 martial apprentice. However, the spiritual energy empowerment had only lasted for a moment, and the majestic spiritual energy had made Jiruo's physique directly surpass the level of a level 9 martial apprentice. The speed of growth was unimaginable. Liang Shixian looked at the scene with his mouth agape. Why did he suddenly open his chi meridian? Was it that careless? How could he know that Jiruo's life was very hard? The financial aid provided by the Great Xia government was only enough for Jiruo to barely live a normal life. There was not even a little surplus. It wasn't that the Great Xia officials were stingy, but that their resources were limited. The area of cultivated land in Great Xia's territory was decreasing every year, and the demons were backed by secret realms. Their fertility rate was shocking, and their resources were inexhaustible. In comparison, it was not easy for some humans living in the border areas to even eat their fill. Such people, their only hope was to participate in the martial arts examination. They either changed their fate and became martial artists who ate demon beasts, or they died in the myriad beast mountain and were eaten by demon beasts. Jiruo's parents had died in the battle against the beast tide, and the Great Xia government was able to provide some allowance for Jiruo to eat every month. This was really the limit. After all, Jiruo wasn't the only orphan in Great Xia. Of course, because of the difference in geographical location, the closer one was to the center of Great Xia, the more prosperous the lives of the people were. Even people like Liang Shixian, who had both parents and a good family background, could occasionally eat bloody rice. But Jiruo had never eaten it before. Under such circumstances, Jiruo still practiced martial arts and was able to reach the level of a level 6 martial apprentice. This in itself proved how hard the original body worked. His training volume was several times or even 10 times that of ordinary people. Diligence can make up for stupidity. Because of this, Jiruo was actually a little malnourished. His body craved for nutrition, and this martial examination made up for his lack of nutrition. Thus, Jiruo bounced back from the bottom. Under the urging of his pure mind, Jiruo naturally broke through. The wind god Falcon was surprised to see Jiruo breaking through the meridian and receiving spiritual energy. She could feel that at this moment, she was rapidly becoming stronger, although she was still very weak compared to her. However, compared to Jiruo from before, it was simply double. Chirp dash, human martial arts are really amazing. Liang Shixian's surprise did not last long before he began to practice martial arts again. He was even more serious than before. As he waved his fists and feet, his strength was heavy, as if he wanted to squander all his strength. Jiruo's breakthrough didn't make him jealous. He knew that Jiruo deserved it. He would only be happy for Jiruo and work harder. He was the class president. How could the class monitor be weaker than his classmates? If the class monitor was not strong, how could he protect his classmates? Therefore, with the support of this intention, a moment later, because Jiruo gradually learned the basics of concentrated breathing, Liang Shixian naturally he became a level 9 martial artist. Jiruo, on the other hand, was still receiving the spiritual energy infusion. His face was abnormally ferocious, but he did not make a sound. Veins bulged on his forehead and neck as if they were about to explode. Blood seeped out of his skin and gradually dyed Jiruo's body red. His heart was beating like a drum, and his blood was surging like a river. Inhale, exhale, exhale, exhale. Half an hour later, Jiruo's spiritual energy infusion ended. His meridians and bones were still aching, but the powerful energy that seemed to be surging in his body made Jiruo happy from the bottom of his heart. The feeling of breaking through is really good. Jiruo, who was covered in blood, raised his palm and waved. The genuine chi in his meridian surged and combined with the flowing blood, bringing Jiruo an unparalleled force. His palm was red with a tinge of black, burning with raging flames. The scorching heat caused Liang Shixian's cheeks to turn red, and he swayed in the strong wind in the high sky meridian realm, special effect martial art. The iron sand palm that was close to the level of perfection finally displayed its due power under the enhancement of the chi meridians and true chi. Jiruo held the flame in his hand and was covered in blood, but he smiled. Class monitor, quick, quick, help me take a photo and record it for me. Liang Shixian took the watch in a daze and took a photo of Jiruo. In the background, there was the wind god Falcon Auntie, the two little wind god falcons who had been awakened by Jiruo's breakthrough, and little Rosie who was still eating her fruit. Punch in. Talent bonus increased to 2.5%. The two little wind falcons, Big Treasure and Two Treasures, were not angry because they were suddenly awakened. Instead, they surrounded Jiruo and chirped excitedly. Chirp. Chirp, fire. Fire. Chirp dash, amazing. Aren't your hands hot? Little Rosie continued to eat. Chapter 43, Chapter 43, do you want to learn martial arts too? Chapter 43, do you want to learn martial arts too? The wind god Falcon was about to say something when it suddenly moved its head and looked in the direction of the mountain peak. Chirp dash, strange, why are those guys suddenly looking for me? She looked at Jiruo and said, Chirp dash, help me take care of the child here. I'm going to the top of the mountain. Okay, okay. You go ahead and be careful. Jiruo said with a smile. There was food and water here, and he had just broken through. He was in a good mood, so it was not a big problem to take care of a child. Onto wind god Sun flapped her wings and soared into the sky. Her body expanded with the wind and covered the sky in the blink of an eye. So Auntie likes big ones too. Liang Shixian's mouth twitched. Jiruo, you've always been so childish. I'm still not used to suddenly driving a car. What do you mean drive? Jiruo asked in surprise. Class monitor, did you secretly look at something that the teacher didn't allow the students to see behind my back? Liang Shixian was speechless for a moment. Class president, we're students now. We should prioritize our studies. I know you're curious, but now's not the time to think about that. Liang Shixian was speechless. De Bao and Er Bao surrounded Jiruo, chattering away. Chirp chirp dash, so powerful. Chirp dash, fire. So hot. Chirp dash, one really want to learn. Jiruo chuckled and was about to refuse when he suddenly had an idea. De Bao and Er Bao, do you want to learn too? Chirp dash, one miss you. Chirp chirp dash, can you do it? Can you do it? The two little wind falcons were excited. However, Liang Shixian quickly pulled Jiruo back and whispered, Jiruo, are you crazy? How could he teach the martial arts of the demon race? Regardless of whether they can learn it or not, you are helping the enemy. Although Liang Shixian's identity had been replaced, Fei could still tell. To survive and become a chef for the monster race and to teach the monster race martial arts were two different concepts. The former was self-preservation, while the latter was betrayal. Support the enemy. Jiruo looked at Liang Shixian in surprise. LT can't be. Right? I'm not a fool. Jiruo looked at De Bao and Er Bao and asked, De Bao and Er Bao, after you learn it, will you become my enemies? Will they become the enemy of mankind? Chirp dash, definitely not. Chirp chirp dash, the food you make is so delicious. We won't be your enemies. Jiruo cheerfully said to Liang Shixian, see, they won't. Liang Shixian was a little angry. No matter how ignorant you are, there should be a limit. However, Jiruo ignored Liang Shixian's tugging and turned to De Bao and Er Bao and said seriously, since you want to learn, then I will teach you. But before that, I have to make one thing clear. That is, we humans attach great importance to teachers. You can learn, but you have to acknowledge me as your master and learn to respect your teachers. The two little fellows had just been born. How would they know about respecting their teachers? All they knew was that Jiruo was going to teach them a martial art that looked very powerful. Chirp chirp. Chirp chirp chirp, I also want to be your disciple. Quickly teach me. Then, let's sign the contract. Jiruo grinned. Chirp chirp dash, good. Chirp chirp dash, sign the contract, sign the contract. Jiruo activated the contract ability that came with his Beast Master title. The system determined. Both parties were willing. Jiruo's strength was above the two little wind falcons. After all, these two little fellows had only been born for less than a day, and Jiruo had broken through to the Chi Pulse realm. Moreover, it was the limit of Chi Pulse under the enhancement of his inherent talent. The contract was signed successfully. Contract completed. Check the details of the pet. The two little wind god falcons were so lucky that they knelt down and kowtowed 3 times to Jiruo. Chirp chirp. Master, please accept my bow. Liang Shixian was speechless. He was still angry. Jiruo had already broken through to the Chi Pulse realm, and his strength was shocking. He couldn't stop Jiruo. Who would have thought that before he could finish venting his anger, he would suddenly see the two wind god falcons actually kneel down and kowtow. Jiruo smiled and helped the two little wind god falcons up. Good disciple, ha 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 ha. After signing the master-servant contract, the two little fellows only had good feelings for Jiruo in their hearts. They had an eternal good feeling. Unable to violate the contract. In the minds of the two little fellows, the word master was the same as the master in Rosie's words. It was just that the way they addressed it was different. In this way, Jiruo did not have to worry about Ant Wind God Falcon coming back to settle the score with him. Jiruo looked at Liang Shixian and smiled. Look, class monitor. The contract has been signed. There's no problem. No problem. Liang Shixian almost vomited blood. What was the use of a verbal contract? Even if it was a paper contract, it would not be safe. What kind of contract would a demon abide by? By the way, there was no power similar to contracts in this world. Even if there was, it was not a power that humans could control, but the power of demons. Jiruo ignored Liang Shixian and began to teach the two little guys martial arts. The Wind God Falcon was a very powerful demon. It was born with the strength of a human who had just broken through to the Chi Meridian realm. Of course, it was a normal beginner who had just entered the Chi Meridian realm. Their feathers were soft yet firm, and exceptionally sharp. Jiruo thought about it and felt that these two little fellows were more suitable for practicing saber techniques. Their wings were curved, and they seemed to be more suitable for saber techniques. So Jiruo said, how about I teach you a knife technique? Chirp dash, what's a saber technique? Chirp chirp dash, will it burn? Will it burn? It won't burn, but Jiruo looked around and broke off a tree branch that looked pleasing to the eye. Although the Wind God Falcon's nest was huge, it was also built with branches. All kinds of dead branches could be seen everywhere. He used the tree branch as a knife and kept it at his waist. He lowered his body and took a deep breath. Suck dash. Suddenly the sound of inhaling air appeared, as if the whistling wind in the sky was pressing down a little. The Beiwei appointment on Jiruo's head moved rhythmically with his breathing, absorbing a large amount of spiritual energy and temporarily residing in his body. His lungs were full, and a large amount of spiritual energy spread throughout his body along with the air he inhaled. Dense electric currents suddenly coursed through Jiruo's body. Breath of thunder, one form dash. The wooden stick at his waist was wrapped in lightning, and Jiruo's body instantly rushed out. Lightning flash. Swoosh. Liang Shixian was shocked. At that moment, he seemed to have really seen the extremely dazzling lightning flash and disappear. If Jiruo's previous thunderbolt flash was just fast, then after breaking through to the Chi Meridian realm, Jiruo seemed to have really turned into a bolt of lightning. He was only holding a wooden stick in his hand, but the dead branches along the way were burned by the high temperature. Was this Jiruo's talent? Was this the so-called saber and sword duality? It was simply terrifying. De Bao and Er Bao were also dumbfounded. They only recovered after a while and jumped up and down excitedly around Jiruo. Chirp chirp dash, master, master, I want to learn this. Chirp chirp dash, learn this, learn this. In their eyes, this move was much more cool than the flaming palm iron palm. Sure. Let's start with breathing. Saying so, Jiruo began to teach Two-Bird his own technique, full concentration breath. Liang Shixian opened his mouth but said nothing. He just sighed. He thought that since Jiruo insisted on teaching him, he would help Jiruo keep it a secret. Otherwise, once this news was leaked, Jiruo would become the target of everyone when he returned to Great Xia after the martial examination. A moment later, Jiruo finished explaining the technique and personally demonstrated it. The two little wind falcons listened very seriously. Jiruo did not have much hope at first. After all, humans had fought with demon beasts for so many years, and he had never heard of any demon beast learning human martial arts. However, he did not expect that these two little fellows' talent was actually a little ridiculously good. They had just started and they had already seen the basics. He watched the two little fellows chirping excitedly and using full concentration breath thunder. The wind was blowing around their wings, and at the same time, there were fine electric currents attached to them. They were running around in the nest with sparks and lightning, having a good time. Jiruo pursed her lips and looked at Liang Shixian. She couldn't help but say, "Class monitor, have you reached the initial stage?" Liang Shixian said gloomily, "No, I don't." Jiruo smacked her lips and sighed. "Then you can't do it, class monitor. You're worse than a bird. If ** suspect that you're cursing." Chapter 44, Chapter 44, Did you come here to restock, _L. Chapter 44, Did you come here to restock, _L. Liang Shixian was very depressed. He ignored Jiruo and turned around to continue cultivating. Jiruo was already in the Qi Meridian realm, while he was just a level 9 martial apprentice. Even the two birds were stronger than him. This class monitor was under a lot of pressure now. Jiruo smiled, took a deep breath, and rushed toward his two new disciples. 3 bolts of lightning passed through the huge bird's nest, burning a large number of dead branches. Fortunately, the nest was huge enough, so there were no major losses for the time being. It was just that there was a missing piece here and there, and it looked very unsightly. But it didn't matter. The main damage was caused by those two little fellows. If he wanted to chase after them and tell them not to make a fuss, he couldn't catch them. If Onduwind God's son were to blame him, Jiruo would say so. Ha 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 ha. Run faster, I'm going to catch you. Chirp chirp dash, can't catch up 9. No matter what the result was, Jiruo had a great time. As a result, the nest became more and more chaotic. But it didn't matter. This was the home of the two little fellows. If they didn't care, why would Jiruo care? Life is full of joy. Half an hour later dash. The two little fellows finally stopped. After all, they had just been born. No matter how much they liked to play, they were already exhausted. Chirp chirp dash, master, I'm hungry 9. Chirp chirp dash, eat meaty, fragrant meaty. Good. Let's eat meaty meat. Jiruo chuckled. He was a little hungry after the intense exercise. In this half an hour, he was not just playing with the two little fellows. He also tested his current strength and some of the abilities he had obtained after opening his meridians. First of all, because he had opened up his Qi meridians, he could directly absorb the spiritual Qi in the air. The consumption of physical strength during intense activities was greatly reduced. To put it simply, it was to enhance the endurance of the plane. Secondly, his strength and speed would increase by more than 3 times. Without using Thunderbolt Flash, he could run at full speed and could even run 100 meters in 4 seconds. And if he used Thunderbolt Flash, it would be less than a second. His eyesight, dynamic vision, and reaction time had been greatly improved, but he was not sure how much it had improved. With the swing of one arm, it could probably weigh thousands of pounds. With all his strength, even if he did not use any technique, he could still slash it into a wind blade that did not have much lethality. Hard sword Qi. Jiruo sighed at the power of the Qi realm, then turned around and walked towards the freezer. At this moment, Jiruo suddenly realized something was wrong. Why was Rosie still eating? How long had he been eating? It clearly looked like a small fart, so how could it eat so much? If he brought this back to Great Xia after the martial examination, could Jiruo afford it? Walking up behind Luo Qingzi in a few steps, Jiruo lowered her head to look. Luo Qian was lying on the ground in the spirit herbs area, eating like crazy. The strange thing was that from Jiruo's perspective, Luo Jian looked like she was eating, but in fact, it seemed that she was only pulling the spiritual herbs that the cat's paws could touch in front of her, and those spiritual herbs naturally disappeared. It didn't look like he was eating, but more like restock. Addicted to restocking, little Luqian didn't notice that Jiruo had come behind her and was giggling as she pulled at her. Jiruo grabbed the back of Luo Jian's neck and lifted her up. "Little fellow, what are you doing?" Clang. Something fell from Luo Jian's arms to the ground with a clang. Jiruo was stunned for a moment. Little Rosie subconsciously covered her face with her paws. "Meow meow 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 meow, Rosie didn't steal anything, Rosie didn't steal anything, Auntie said you can eat as much as you want." "Stealing?" Jiruo laughed in anger. Looking down, what fell from Rosie's body seemed to be a piece the size of a baby's fist mirror. "What is this?" Jiruo didn't pay much attention to it at first. She bent down to pick it up. However, the moment Jiruo's finger touched the mirror, he froze. Clang, 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 clang. Congratulations to the host for obtaining, all-inclusive mirror that can enter and exit the sky and the earth at any time. Type, function item. Rarity, theoretically perfect, incomplete. Special effect 1, enter and exit at any time and anywhere, after recording the coordinates, you can instantly teleport, incomplete. Special effect 2, all-inclusive, contains a storage space, can be divided into areas to set storage rules. Current rules, time freeze preservation. Creator, Fantasy Lord. Remark, from the name of the item, this Fantasy Lord is most likely not a proper existence. Current status, Rosie, detected as the host's pet, this item can be included in the card collection. Cards in the current card collection, none. Remark, the joy of collecting cards. Remark, my turn. Draw a card. The system suddenly sent out a series of dense messages, dazzling Jiruo. It seemed like a new function had been activated. Seeing that Jiruo had taken the mirror, Luo Jian stretched out her claws and wailed, "Meow dash, master, that's my baby." Jiruo glanced at her. "A child shouldn't take such an expensive thing. Master will help you keep it first." That expression and tone were very similar to the parents of children who received their red packet money during the new year and asked, "What are children doing with so much money?" "Daddy will save it for you first." "Meow dash, bad master." Ignoring Luo Jian, Jiruo began to study the Wanxiang mirror. This mirror was not as smooth as a regular mirror. There were bumps and dents on the surface of the mirror, and irregular straight lines divided the mirror into diamonds of different sizes. It could not reflect the image of the person looking in the mirror. In fact, the image presented in each diamond-shaped mirror was different. A single diamond-shaped mirror was a picture, 2 adjacent diamond-shaped mirrors combined to form a new picture, and 3 mirrors formed another picture, and so on. In fact, if he changed the angle of view, those images would change again, becoming uncertain and impermanent. It was obviously irregular, but it gave Jiruo a sense of perfection. However, there was a flaw in this perfection. In the middle of the mirror, a diamond-shaped mirror was missing. Storage tool. Jiruo rubbed his chin and put it directly into the system card collection book, then controlled it through the card collection book. In an instant, a seemingly boundless chaotic space appeared in Jiruo's mind. Jiruo was shocked by the size of the empty space, but his face turned black. The space began to shrink rapidly after the full display. In the blink of an eye, Jiruo saw a small hill. Those were the resources that Luo Jian had stored in the Wanxiang mirror. Roasted fish, roasted meat, spiritual fruits, and spiritual plants. It was densely packed. "I was wondering why you can eat so much. So you can't bear the consequences." Rosie lowered her ears in grievance and whispered, "Meow dash, Rosie doesn't want to go hungry anymore. When she doesn't have a master, Rosie is very, very hungry. She can't find anything to eat. Even the fish bully me." "Don't worry, it won't happen again." Rosie raised her head happily. "Then Rosie's treasure. I'll keep it for you." Rosie's burning heart was instantly extinguished. "Meow dash, all right." Jiruo looked into the Wanxiang mirror again. 90% of those resources were taken from Ant Wind God Falcon's inventory. Fortunately, Ant Wind God Falcon had a lot of food reserves at home. Otherwise, Rosie would have taken them all. "You're not allowed to steal anymore," Jiruo said seriously. "Education should start from the child." After the treasure was confiscated, Luo Jian said weakly, "Meow dash, got it 9. Chapter 45, Chapter 45, Class Monitor, don't go on an adventure. Chapter 45, Class Monitor, don't go on an adventure. De Bao, chirp master, are you done? Chiu Xin Chiao, chirp chirp dash, 1M starving 9. Good, good, good. Jiruo was too lazy to go through the trouble and directly took out the roasted meat from Luo Shi's inventory. In the storage space of the Wanxiang mirror, the current rule was to freeze time to preserve freshness, so the food stored in it remained the same, without any changes. Under Rosie's pained gaze, the two little wind god falcons ate more than 10 pieces of hot and fragrant roasted meat before falling asleep in satisfaction. Then, Jiruo told Liang Shixian that he was going on an adventure and asked if Liang Shixian wanted to go. However, Liang Shixian rolled his eyes, indicating that he had to cultivate seriously and had no time to play with Jiruo. He told Jiruo to be careful and pay attention to her safety. Jiruo agreed readily. With little Rosie on his head, he carried the small wooden stick and walked towards the depths of the wind god falcon's nest. Let's go on a small road in the countryside with a small wooden stick in my hand. Jiruo sang a song that she had composed herself. She swung her small wooden stick and walked out with disrespectful steps. Meow 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 meow. The kitten's emotions came and went quickly. Luo Qian lay on top of Jiruo's head and meowed along with Jiruo's song. It was not according to Jiruo's tune, but it sounded very happy. As soon as Jiruo said that he wanted to take her out to play, he was so happy that he immediately forgot that his treasure had been confiscated by Jiruo. He watched as the childish master and servant sang and danced away. He was helpless, but at the same time, he was a little envious. He couldn't be as happy as Jiruo. This was the dangerous Myriad Beast Mountain, the nest of the wind god falcon, the ruler of the Myriad Beast Mountain sky. His rationality told him to be careful, but Jiruo's actions kept ruining the atmosphere. Sigh, I wonder when Jiruo will grow up. Liang Shixian shook his head and sighed. Then, he focused on his cultivation. Jiruo had been gone for about 20 minutes. He looked around and didn't find any other creatures around him. He then summoned the long name of the Omnizo mirror from the card collection. My turn. Draw a card. Jiruo suddenly shouted. Then, he raised the index and middle fingers of his left hand and took out a card that looked like a child's doodle. The crude lines on the card depicted the appearance of the Wanxiang mirror. And that line was the necessary password to use the system card collection book. The card glowed and instantly returned to its original appearance. Meow. My baby. As Luo Qian spoke, she wanted to stretch out her claws to scratch, but Jiruo raised her hand and pressed it on her head. Her short limbs waved wildly, and she babbled as if she was accusing Jiruo of stealing the kitten's treasure. This mirror had two special effects. One of them was the storage function, which Jiruo had already experimented with. There was almost no consumption during use. Now, he decided to try another special effect. Looking at the description, the special effect seemed to be able to travel through space. Myriad Manifestation Blink. Jiruo shouted, subconsciously ignoring the original name of this function and choosing a better one. The next moment, a blood-red vortex appeared in front of Jiruo. It was a portal. On the other side of the portal was the nine-eyed demon spider lair that Jiruo had been to before. Teleportation gate. The so-called record, space, coordinates, are the places that have been to? Or, Jiruo felt the energy consumption and roughly estimated that he could open up to 100 similar portals at his current level. He waved his hand to disperse the portal and tried again. This time, he didn't choose a specific location. Instead, he muttered in his heart in a more abstract manner, martial exam candidates, regardless of life or death. There was no portal. Do you want to be more specific? Tree demon. Jiruo probed. The tree demon tribe that I've come into contact with. Buzz. The portal appeared. Through the blood-red vortex, Jiruo could clearly see the scene on the other side through the portal. He could even hear the voice on the other end. Shasha dash, leader, don't you want it? Shasha dash, yeah, the wind god falcon is not something we can fight against. The fertilizer tree brothers, let's just leave them alone, shall we? The leader of the tree demons shook its leaves and scolded angrily, Russell, 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 Russell dash, nonsense. How could he not save her? Even though we tree demons can survive as long as we have sunlight and water, who doesn't want to get up at night and eat a mouthful of warm food? Even if the small demons and small demons passing by would occasionally produce some fertilizer, would they do this every time? If we save the fertilizer tree brothers, at least we can grow stronger in the future. The source of fertilizer would be guaranteed. Who would be willing to live on the minimum guarantee, referring to the sun and water, every day if they could have something to eat? Shasha. Sha dash, but what but? You're already here. Sha dash, no, leader, the wind god falcon's nest is 10,000 meters in the air. We can't fly, so how can we save it? The leader of the tree demons said, Russell, Russell, Russell dash, stupid. We are tree demons, what is a mere 10,000 meters? Give me tens of thousands of years, I will definitely be able to grow that tall. When that time comes, the wind god falcon will definitely die of old age, and we will be able to successfully rescue the fertilizer tree brothers. Perseverance is victory, brothers. Shasha dash, awesome. Awesome. Shat dash, as expected of the leader. Why couldn't I think of such a perfect solution? The leader of the tree demons proudly shook its branch. Shasha dash, why else would I be the leader? This is wisdom. Jiruo was stunned. Were these guys trying to save him? He was a little touched, but the way these tree demons saved him was a little. Jiruo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Give you tens of thousands of years? Tens of thousands of years later, my bones will turn into dregs. After thinking for a while, Jiruo walked into the portal. The moment he passed through the teleportation gate, 1/3 of the blood essence power in his body was consumed. He didn't notice that Luo Qian's body was also glowing with a faint black light. Because Luo Qian was black to begin with, the black light was extremely faint, so it wasn't eye-catching. Jiruo didn't notice this, and Luo Qian didn't seem to notice it either. Jiruo was only surprised that the energy consumption of shuttling was so much greater than the energy consumption of opening the door. But thinking about it, it seemed normal. After all, he was traveling through space. Raising his head, Jiruo used his powerful eyesight of the chi pulse boundary to see a small black dot 10,000 meters in the air. It was the floating island, where the wind god Falcon lived. After verifying that the shuttle function was indeed useful, Jiruo looked at the group of treemen who were discussing the rescue plan. These treemen were kind. Jiruo suddenly said, "Leader." The group of treemen were already very scared when they arrived at the wind god Falcon's nest. Any movement that did not belong to them could scare them. Therefore, they were so scared that they did not dare to move. "Don't worry, Chief, it's me." Jiruo laughed. Dash, you are the fertilizer tree brothers. That's right. The substitution skill was not bad. These guys were clearly scared to death, but they still remembered him. Chapter 46, what are you substituting for? Chapter 46, what are you substituting for? Shasha brother, are you alright? The tree demon leader said in surprise. The other tree demons also began to ask about Jiruo's well-being, making Jiruo inexplicably feel like a student who had suddenly returned home from a trip. It's not a big deal, Jiruo said. The wind god Falcon doesn't intend to let me go. These tree demons were extremely timid. They were able to withstand the fear of the wind god Falcon and rush into the area covered by the wind god Falcon's demonic aura. This in itself could explain something. Regardless of whether these guys came here because of the effect of the substitution skill, if they saw this intention, they would be able to see it. Humans and demons had different paths, and Jiruo couldn't get too close to these tree demons. Everything that had happened before was just an act. However, after seeing their sincerity with his own eyes, Jiruo couldn't bear to see these guys wait under the sky-floating island for tens of thousands of years. Therefore, after a moment of consideration, Jiruo suddenly said, "LT's like this, leader. The reason why I'm here is because the wind god Falcon sensed your arrival and thanked you for your kindness. It asked me to come down and say goodbye to you." The leader of the tree demons said, "Swoosh. Swoosh. Swoosh. What do you mean? I'm going to the top of the mountain." Jiruo pretended to be melancholic and started to lie. "The wind god Falcon wants to send me and another brother to the top of the mountain for those great demons to use to pick their teeth. They are huge and have noble statuses. Ordinary trees are not worthy of being their toothpicks. Only precious treemen like us are barely qualified. So, leader, goodbye. The other brother has been sent over. I'm almost there. Don't think about me and don't save me. You guys live well. I'm very happy to know you, but please don't give up your precious lives for me. It's already not easy for us tree demons to survive in this secret realm. If you really can't bear to part with me, then work even harder to live on." After saying that, Jiruo stepped forward and hugged the leader of the tree demons. He also jumped up and picked a few spiritual fruits. Jiruo waved his hand and said to the invisible tree demons, "Goodbye, brothers. I'm going to deal with the problem of the demon beasts at the top of the mountain. If there's a next life, let's be brothers again." After saying that, Jiruo summoned a portal and returned to the floating island. The wind god Falcon had left for almost 2 hours and would probably be back soon. Jiruo did not dare to stay here any longer. Liang Shixian was the only human on the floating island, and he didn't have the common language. What if he was killed by accident? Once again, a third of his vitality force had been consumed, and he was left with the last third. Jiruo walked in Liang Shixian's direction and took out a high-level spiritual fruit that he couldn't name. He ate it to speed up the recovery of his vitality. "Wuo." Luo Qian cried softly on top of Jiruo's head. Jiruo was stunned for a moment before raising his hand to rub her little head. "What are you crying for, little fellow?" "Meow meow meow wuo. Master, We're going to deal with the problem of the big demon at the top of the mountain. Can I not go? It was so disgusting. Rosie was scared. Sob 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 sob. Jiruo. What are you blindly putting in? I lied to those tree demons. They're so timid, Jiruo said angrily. They wouldn't dare to go to the top of the mountain. Anyway, they came to the bottom of the sky-floating island to save us. We can't just leave them there, right? Rosie's emotions were not coherent at the time. I'm already crying, and you're telling me you're lying to the tree. Bad master. Jiruo ignored Luo Jian, who was throwing a tantrum on top of her head, and pondered as she walked. From the looks of it, the teleportation function of the 10,000 appearances mirror consumed a lot of energy and could not be used continuously. Moreover, he did not know whether the consumption had anything to do with the distance. If the consumption of energy from the sky-floating island to the ground was so great, the consumption of energy from the sky-floating island to the Great Xia would probably be even more terrifying. If Jiruo couldn't pass this thing, the martial examination would end early. And from the current situation, the spatial coordinate record of this ability seemed to be the location of the place where he had been or the location of the creature that had interacted with him. It was almost halfway through the 5th day. There was still a day and a half before he should return. He would continue to laze around on the sky-floating island. In any case, the 2 children of Ondu Wind God Falcon had already become his disciples. As the saying goes, a teacher for a day is a father for life. In theory, he could be considered the husband of Ondu Wind God Sun Ahem. In short, Jiruo was absolutely safe in the Wind God Falcon's nest. There was no doubt about this. What Jiruo didn't know was that after he left, the group of tree demons fell into a long silence because of his words. The leader of the tree demons suddenly trembled, and the leaves on its head shook violently. Shasha dash, too much bullying. You're bullying the tree. Sha dash, teeth picking. Teeth picking. Teeth picking. Sha dash, those great demons and great demons living on the mountaintop bully the trees too much. Russell dash, brother fertilizer trees words make me so angry that my entire body is trembling. On such a hot day, the leaves will turn yellow and fall off, and the roots will be cold. Can this mythical realm still be good? We tree demons are already at peace with the world. We can live by basking in the sun and drinking water every day. How can we live to satisfy them? The tree sap is flowing out. This secret realm is full of oppression towards the tree demons. When can we tree demons really stand up? Its emotions were transmitted to every tree demon through the shaking leaves and the trembling roots under the ground. They were empathetic, and all the tree demons were furious. Shat, I can't stand it anymore. It wasn't easy for our tree demon clan to have 2 divine trees that are essential for home travel. We tree demons can be completely self-sufficient. Teeth picking. Those damned mountain-top demons actually used the tree of God brothers to pick their teeth. I can't stand it. Shasha brothers, let's unite and save the divine tree brothers. The leader of the tree demons shook its branches crazily. Sha dash, we want to prove to the other Yao that we tree Yao are not inferior to any Yao. After I save the divine tree brothers, I will personally breed them. We will live and work in peace and contentment. We will take root during the day and migrate at night. We will stick out our chests and be proud tree demons. The other tree demons responded with the sound of sha, that's right. Right. Their simple emotions were stirred up, and their dull emotions exploded at this moment. The crowd was agitated. Of course, there were still some tree demons who were more awake. Shasha dash, one understand the logic, but leader, how are we going to save the divine tree brothers? We can't defeat those big guys at the top of the mountain. Shasha dash, go find the ancestor. Gather the tree demon brothers from other places. We must unite, unity is strength. The leader of the tree demons called out to everyone. Shush dash, compromise will only result in more aggression and oppression. We must unite and resist. Only by resisting can we grow into a towering tree. Russell. Resist. Shasha dash, unity. Unity. Russell. Never compromise. They began to migrate again to find their ancestor and the other tree demon brothers. They wanted to unite and go to the top of the mountain to save the divine tree brothers. Of course, the 2 divine tree brothers were completely unaware of all of this. It was unknown when it started, but there would occasionally be intelligent individuals among low-level demons or monsters. For example, goblins who could regulate farming and speak human language, or tree demon leaders who could incite revolution. Everything seemed to have started more than 100 years ago. These intelligent low-level demons seemed to be using their outstanding wisdom to lead their race to prosperity and to live a better life. However, time always proved that they were actually using various methods to bring their respective races to the abyss of extinction. These deaths happened so coincidentally that no Yao or Mo had ever noticed it. However, the number of demons in the mystic realm was slowly being consumed by each other, decreasing year by year. It was as if there was a pair of invisible hands plotting and pushing everything in the dark. Even the most gentle tree demon tribe had the will to resist, as if it was a sign. The sky of Myriad Beast Mountain was about to change. Chapter 47, Chapter 47, Is he that hard to take a beating? Chapter 47, Is he that hard to take a beating? On the way back, Jiruo picked up a feather that the wind god falcon had shed. The feather was slightly green and slightly transparent. It looked soft, but it was actually extremely hard and sharp. Holding it in his hand was like holding a breeze. The feather was about 1.6 meters long and 4 palms wide. It was extremely heavy in his hands. Jiruo weighed it in his hands. Just one feather alone could weigh dozens of kilograms. It's quite heavy. Jiruo held the feather as if he was holding a sword. The feather was so hard that it made a clanging sound when it hit the ground. The tip of the feather did not bend at all. As he waved it, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. Jiruo used the standard sword he carried with him to collide with it. Under the situation where he did not use the support of his blood and chi, the feather collided with the sword blade and actually emitted the sound of metal colliding. Even the sword blade was hit, and the feather was not injured at all. Whoa! Jiruo was ecstatic. Was the feather sword not more handsome than the wooden stick sword? This expedition was really worth it. What a great harvest! He happily brandished his feather sword and walked back. On the way, he even tried to use his vitality force to enhance it. He didn't expect that this attempt would be even more surprising. Using the power of blood essence to control it, it could actually make the feather soft and bent to a certain extent. Under the influence of the power of blood essence, it could change its shape at will to a certain extent. It could switch between a sword and a sword at will. Not bad. Jiruo said happily. Returning to his original location, Jiruo was surprised to find that Ondu Wind God Falcon had not returned. Liang Shixian's entire body was steaming, and his skin was greenish-gray. He did not have much of a breakthrough in his realm, but with the supply of a large number of high-grade ingredients, his iron skin technique had finally reached the advanced level. The level of mastery of the martial arts would determine the power of the martial arts and unlock more uses. Of course, low-level martial arts techniques like the iron palm and iron shirt wouldn't have many uses after mastering them. For example, the iron shirt would only become harder and harder. However, this martial skill could be considered as a prerequisite for some high-grade defensive martial skills. After mastering it to a certain level, it would be easier to master it when learning higher-grade defensive martial skills in the future. As for martial arts techniques such as iron palm and iron shirt, which could enhance one's physical condition to a certain extent, the cultivation process required the assistance of special medicinal liquids. Of course, only martial apprentices had to follow this rule. The opening of chi meridians was the foundation of a martial artist's transcendence. Liang Shixian was not Jiruo. Without the help of the achievement system, logically speaking, without the support of the corresponding medicinal liquid in the mystic realm, forcefully cultivating would only cause some irreversible damage to his body. However, the various ingredients in the wind god falcon's nest were too high grade. Even if they were not a complete set, it was enough for Liang Shixian to ignore the damage. Ah, class monitor, you're smoking. Jiruo pretended to be surprised. When Liang Shixian heard the voice, he turned around in surprise and wanted to share the joy of his martial arts breakthrough with Jiruo. Jiruo, you're back. My iron skin, where did you get such a large feather? Jiruo flaunted his feathers and said, are you envious? This is a treasure I just found on an expedition. I told you to go but you didn't, hee. Liang Shixian was speechless. It was just a feather shed by Ant Wind God Falcon. This was the nest of that ant, so it was not strange for there to be feathers. As the saying went, eating someone's mouth was short. Liang Shixian was calling her auntie more and more fluently. But I have it, you don't. Jiruo said happily. How was it? Envious now? Humph. Luo Qian lay on top of Jiruo's head and waved her two short paws like Jiruo. Meow, meow, meow dash, are you envious? Are you envious? The joy he wanted to share just now instantly disappeared. Liang Shixian took a deep breath and continued to cultivate. By the way, class monitor, didn't auntie come back? Jiruo asked. No, I haven't. Liang Shixian clenched his fists and closed his eyes slightly. Under the stimulation of Jiruo's childish behavior, he actually had a faint feeling of opening up his meridians. Jiruo, it's better to hurry up and cultivate. Although we're safe for now, we can't afford to slack off in our martial arts cultivation. Liang Shixian subconsciously turned on his preaching mode. But I've already opened my meridians. Jiruo tilted her head. What the f***ck? Liang Shixian couldn't help but glare at Jiruo. Only then did he realize that what he had grasped just now was not the feeling of chi. He was clearly angered by Jiruo. The two babies woke up again. Ondu Wind God Falcon still hadn't returned, but the two little fellows didn't care. They seemed to have unlimited energy and were playing in the nest again. This time, Rosie didn't take the brunt of it anymore. Instead, she played with everyone. No, it should be said that he was being played. Chirp dash, don't run. Chiu Xin Chiao, chirp chirp dash, stop, stop. They circulated the breath of thunder and wind and lightning swirled around their tender wings, moving like lightning. Rosie was not as fast as them. She was knocked over like a rubber ball. At first, Jiruo was worried that Luo Jian would be ruined by them. However, Luo Jian seemed to be very resistant to being hit. Not only was she not injured at all, but her emotions were getting higher and higher. Meow. What kind of ability is bullying a kitten? If you have the guts, don't run so fast. I'll scratch your face. Jiruo scratched his head. He gradually slowed down and checked the detailed information of his two disciples. Name, Dabeo, first name of the ox. Race, Wind God Falcon type, demon. Stage, infant stage. Talent, Imperial Wind, Thunder. Remark, a high-level demon with a very pure bloodline. Its growth potential is very impressive. This was Dabao's details panel, and so was Bao's. The innate talent wind manipulation was well understood. The reason why the Wind God Falcon was called the Wind God Falcon was because it possessed a powerful control over the wind element. When it reached adulthood, it would be like a god of the wind. As for the thunder in the parenthesis, it was probably because of the concentrated breathing thunder that Jiruo taught the two little guys. Demons could also evolve, but not as frequently as demons. Jiruo was very satisfied with his two new disciples. When they grew up in the future, they would definitely be a great help to him. Riding the Wind God Falcon and flying in the sky, just thinking about it was very cool. After reading the information of his two disciples, Jiruo also looked at Luo Jian's. Although he knew that there wouldn't be any changes, he had already clicked on it, so he just took a look. However, Jiruo was stunned. Luo Jian's other information didn't change. She was still in the infant stage. However, this little fellow's talent had become endowment, illusion -4 tenacity -9. The original illusion talent was becoming dim and transparent at a visible speed, and the color of the new tenacity talent was gradually darkening. What the hell? Because he was afraid of pain, so he focused on defense. Why the hell did he even bring him to refresh his points and add skills? Jiruo was about to grab Luo Jian and ask her about it when suddenly phew. The wind howled, and the Wind God Falcon returned. Auntie, please what's wrong with you? Ondu Wind God Sun shook off the frost on her right wing. The feathers on her body were messy, and she looked a little embarrassed. She said angrily, chirp dash, those damn guys actually dared to threaten me. However, her anger did not last long. She saw the two little fellows rushing over with wind and thunder. They were crying out for their mother and were stunned on the spot. She looked at Jiruo and asked, chirp dash, what's going on? I asked you to take care of a baby, but why did your attributes change? I taught them some of my own martial arts. Jiruo explained simply. Chirp dash, you taught my child martial arts. Ondu Wind God Sun looked at Jiruo blankly, chirp dash, but you're a human, we're demons. She had some understanding of humans and knew that Jiruo's actions were no different from betraying the human race. Moreover, they were clearly of different races. How did you teach him? Aya, what does it matter if he's a human or a demon? There are good people and bad people, and there are good demons and bad demons. Jiruo said indifferently. Besides, I created it myself. Chirp. Ondu Wind God Sun seemed to hesitate, but Jiruo didn't intend to stay on this topic for too long. Anyway, these two little fellows had already become his pets. With the contract, they definitely wouldn't take the initiative to become enemies with humans in the future. They might even become humans' helpers and teach some of Jiruo's self-created martial arts. There wouldn't be any problem. By the way, Auntie, what's wrong? Jiruo asked curiously. Did those guys on the mountain top attack you? At the mention of this, the lady became angry. Chirp dash, those guys caught a high-level martial artist and planned to share it with me. However, they were worried that they would break the rules set back then and attract the revenge of stronger martial artists. Therefore, they wanted to pull me into their camp. If I didn't agree, they would beat me up. Jiruo was stunned for a moment. The demons at the top of the mountain caught a high-level martial artist. Wait a minute, didn't you say that those guys weren't your match? Ondu Wind God Falcon said angrily, chirp. I just didn't agree, and they attacked me together. A total of 16. I can beat one or two of them, but that's 16. Chapter 48, The Martial Artist on the Mountain Peak. Chapter 48, The Martial Artist on the Mountain Peak. The time was adjusted slightly. Even a powerful warrior like the secretary of the education department, Gu Xingzhou, was unable to resist the massive earth vein twist. The ability to twist the earth vein came from the dragon pearl of the earth overturning dragon. The earthworm was a great demon that was born in the Myriad Beast Mountain's mystic realm's earth vein. In a sense, it was equivalent to a part of the Myriad Beast Mountain's earth vein. The ancient star continent naturally had no way of resisting the power of the entire Myriad Beast Mountain's earth vein. If he had that strength, he would be able to take down the Myriad Beast Mountain alone. Because it was one of the two parties that were mainly affected, the severely injured white cat almost died in the violent twist of the earth vein. It had to switch to the cat form and revert to the infant stage. Gu Xingzhou naturally couldn't be safe and sound. He felt a little dizzy. By the time he came back to his senses, he had already appeared at the top of the mountain. Gu Xingzhou frowned deeply as he faced the ferocious gazes of the many great demons. This is troublesome. A huge toad that seemed to be carrying a bright moon on its back opened its mouth and spoke in human language. Human? I don't remember this being part of the deal's food delivered to your doorstep. It smiled sinisterly. The moon behind it changed its phase as time passed. The full moon, crescent moon, and new moon repeated themselves. How did you deal with the shadows? A huge tribulation centipede asked coldly. Demons would not be able to grow their cultivation by eating ordinary humans, and the taste was not good either. Therefore, only low-level demons would eat ordinary humans. Those fellows did not have high intelligence, so they were not picky eaters. It wasn't as if the demons on the mountain peak didn't eat ordinary humans. In fact, some demons would still eat them, but humans were very protective of their own. Normal training was fine, but if a high-level demon entered the battlefield to kill, it was very likely to attract the revenge of human experts. Humans were in a dire situation, but they were unusually crazy when it came to revenge. That ruthlessness that he would rather die than live in disgrace was something that even demons and devils were afraid of sometimes. Demons were selfish and would not sacrifice themselves for the sake of the other. Therefore, under normal circumstances, great demons found it troublesome and were too lazy to eat ordinary people. However, it was different this time. They stayed at the top of the mountain and did not break the transaction rule. This martial artist had delivered himself to their doorstep. The taste and benefits of the flesh and blood of high-level martial artists were completely different from that of ordinary people. It was worth eating. Moreover, devouring martial artists of the same level might not necessarily attract revenge, at least not for the time being. However, it was a little troublesome to eat them. Each of the martial artists had terrifying combat strength. In a one-on-one battle, even demons of the same level would find it difficult to gain the upper hand. If it were not for the fact that the human population was far inferior to that of the monster race and demon race, the losses would be unimaginable if a full-scale war broke out. The living standards of the human race would probably be even worse. The current situation, they were more than 10 great fiendish demons, and they were facing a martial artist of the same level. So what if the martial artist could fight? What should we do? An ugly hyena licked its lips. Naturally, I'll eat it. It's been a long time since I've tasted a powerful martial artist. Me too, said the moon-swallowing toad coldly. As Gu Xingzhou listened to the conversation of the demons, his heart gradually sank to the bottom. 16 4-star fiendish demon slow. I'm afraid it won't be easy this time. Those children. We can't give up until the last moment. The secretary's gaze gradually sharpened, but he did not despair. The sooner we leave this place, the more children we can save. Can't waste time here. While the demons were talking, the ancient star continent was not idle either. They had been secretly accumulating their strength and waiting for an opportunity. The moon-swallowing toad's jaw bulged, and it opened its mouth to spit. The bright moon on its back emitted a faint cold light, and an extremely cold aura was spat out. Even the space seemed to be frozen. Get lost! Gu Xingzhou roared angrily. His entire body turned into a pure golden color as he guarded against the attacks of the demons. At the same time, his surging blood essence condensed into 3 pairs of huge arms behind him. They were like wings that accompanied Gu Xingzhou's palms as he fiercely slapped out. 8 gates, heavenly steel. The 8 huge palm prints turned into a golden-red heavenly steel with mysterious inscriptions carved on it. The inscriptions on the stone steel were abnormally clear, as if they were real. They actually forcefully pushed back the icy aura. Moo. A huge bull charged out and charged forward. Its body was like cracked earth, and red lava flowed through its skin. It endured the cold and smashed into the 8 heavenly steel palms of the ancient star continent, shattering them. Bull was stunned. The strength of these 8 giant palms was unexpectedly weak. Before it could come back to its senses, Gu Xingzhou had already transformed into a stream of light and flew into the distance. A feint. Gu Xingzhou knew very well that the most important thing for him to do now was not to fight here. 16 4-star fiendish demons were not something he could contend against. Even if he could drag 1 or 2 demons down with him, The death of one or two demons would not allow the children who were still waiting for rescue to survive. The most important thing now was to save people, not to kill demons. Run. Gu Xingzhou heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that no demons were chasing after him. He thought to himself, it seems like these demons are still abiding by the agreement they made back then and will not leave the mountain peak easily. The demon surrounded the moon-swallowing toad and looked at the bright moon on its back. Beast realm main dog, you are smart, let him consume his own strength, wait for him to consume almost, we can eat him without any effort. How is it? Did I act well just now? Didn't I say that giving me the moonlight mirror was the best choice? The moon-swallowing toad said proudly. After refining the moon of Myriad Beast Mountain, I have mastered the power of space and ice. That human will never be able to escape. A relatively small hundred-eyed magic crow opened its mouth and let out an unusually unpleasant sound. LF, I didn't use the illusion to confuse him, do you think he would run into your moon? They looked at the bright moon. On the bright moon, there was a stream of light that was flying rapidly. It was the ancient star continent. Gu Xingzhou had no idea that when he turned around and fled, he was heading towards the moon-swallowing toad. While the demons were conversing, the hundred-eyed demonic crow had already set up an illusion. The demons seemed to be discussing whether they should eat the ancient star continent, but in reality, they had no intention of letting him go from the beginning. How could he easily give up on food that was delivered to his doorstep? Now, they only needed to wait here. When the ancient star continent's energy was almost exhausted, they would be able to devour it effortlessly. This human came to the mountain peak by himself and didn't eat. Gu Xingzhou ran wildly, using the graceful fleeting to the extreme. This was an extremely brilliant straight-line movement technique. When it was activated, it could turn into a stream of light and drag out a beautiful stream of light. At the same time, it was also extremely fast. With the ancient star continent's cultivation base, if it were to operate at full speed, it could reach 4 times the speed of sound. After running for a while, Gu Xingzhou turned around and glanced. The demons were dumbfounded. They stood rooted to the ground and stared at the ancient star continent. Perhaps it was because it noticed Gu Xingzhou turning around, it actually let out a furious roar, telling Gu Xingzhou not to run. Gu Xingzhou quickened his pace once again, but he gradually became suspicious. That illusion dominator's creation can make them so obedient. As he ran, he gradually discovered that something was wrong. After feeling puzzled, he kept looking back as he ran. Every time he turned his head, the demons would roar angrily at the right time. Every time he turned his head, the distance between the demons and him did not seem to change. Looking closely, although the surrounding scene was rapidly retreating, it seemed to be repeating itself. Damn it, hundred-eyed demon crow. Gu Xingzhou finally realized the problem. Among the 16 4-star fiendish demons, there was a 4-star devil, a hundred-eyed devil crow that specialized in creating illusions. High-level demons were huge, but demons were not. Other than some special demons, most of the demons would not change much even if they advanced to 4-star or 5-star. Bigger meant stronger, and it wasn't suitable for all living beings. After sprinting for a long time, Gu Xingzhou stopped, his expression uncertain. When the demons saw Gu Xingzhou stop, they looked around curiously. LS it almost used up. Probably. I already felt that he wasn't in a good state. Then can we start eating? The demons discussed. Gu Xingzhou's expression was not too good. He did not know where the hundred-eyed devil crow was, nor did he know where he was. As such, he had no way of breaking through the illusion through conventional means. It's just a few grotto heaven-star whirlpools. Gu Xingzhou gritted his teeth. 72 spots of light suddenly lit up on his body and spread out across his body. At the same time, 72 dazzling blood chi stars suddenly appeared behind him. The 72 blood chi stars formed a somewhat abstract human figure in the void. Break. He did not hesitate at all. The human figure formed by the blood chi stars suddenly punched out. The 3 blood chi stars formed into a fist directly exploded in exchange for powerful strength. Gu Xingzhou self-detonated 3 blood essence star whirlpools. The surging blood essence power exploded rapidly, erupting with an abnormally terrifying impact force. The surrounding demons were blinded by the dazzling light, and even the moon on the back of the moon-swallowing toad was blasted open. The bright moon space was damaged, and a huge hole appeared in the sky. The illusion shattered, and Gu Xingzhou raised his head to see the heads of the ferocious beasts. Croak, the moon-swallowing toad cried out in pain. Damn humans. Part 2 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.